You probably just heard me clearing my throat. I actually thought I had my headphones on mute there for a second. Strange way to start the show, I know. But welcome. This is Catching Up with KJ, episode number 61, and I am KJ Osborne with a Z, and I welcome you here. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for spending some time with us this Saturday evening. There's some stuff I wanted to kind of talk about with you guys here in the beginning, just things I've been looking into lately that I think are really interesting. And I want to start with something right here, and it has to do with weddings, modern day weddings. And in the past, I've talked a lot about how I'm not a big fan of what they are now. These are rituals, and they're guised under the form of of modern day Christianity. It's Christian, they say. A lot of these are rituals, because only when we really understand the wedding customs of the Bible can we really begin to appreciate how much it's changed, what it's become, and how it's all driven by man. On the other hand, we can also see the rich imagery of our salvation in Christ and our marriage to Christ as his, quote, virgin bride. But looking back at what weddings were in the Bible, it was the 3 C's. There were the 3 C's of Bible weddings. It was contract, consummation, and celebration. And these same things exist today in modern marriages. It's just that the order, timing, and a lot of other things of each stage is very different. Ancient Jewish weddings never involved a wedding ceremony like we see today with the bride walking down the aisle to be married in the synagogue. The wedding ceremony, quote unquote, is something that did not develop for hundreds of years after Jesus rose from the dead. The modern Jewish weddings are as removed and different from the ancient Jewish marriage culture of the first century as much as Christian weddings are. So if you want to understand the many metaphors, illustrations, and figures of speech used by Jesus about the, quote, wedding feast and the church as the, quote, bride of Christ, then we have to learn about these ancient cultures and forget everything that we know about modern marriage ceremonies. There were 3 stages of a marriage in the Bible. The first stage was signing the ketubah. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Spelled Ketubbah, a ketubah contract, which was creating the marriage bond. And then once this is signed, the couple was 100% married, but they didn't have sex yet. Young children were often married at this time also. There were arranged marriages, of course, but they didn't consummate until they were of age. And stage 2 is the chuppah, sexual consummation. Up to 7 years later, think about that, up to 7 years later, the groom is able to raise the money as set out in the ketubah contract and notifies the father of the bride, who then sets a date to consummate the marriage at the bride's home. So cool, your dad's involved with the consummation. The bride waits with their maidens for the arrival of the groom and his companions, and then the couple enters the chuppah room and they consummate their marriage, while the companions of the bride and the groom wait and they actually celebrate just outside or in the next room. The groom then hands the bloodied proof of virginity cloth, if you will, to the witnesses chosen by the bride's parents, who then give it to the bride for safekeeping. Now, the wedding feast at that time, after consummation, the entire wedding party would walk to the house of the groom in a procession for a wedding feast. And at the conclusion of the wedding feast, the couple had completed the ancient ritual of marriage. There was no, quote, wedding ceremony in the synagogue in the first century, performed under a canopy where the bride and groom would hold hands and say, "I do," before an audience of friends and family. This didn't even develop for hundreds of years after Jesus died on the cross as the Passover lamb for the sins of the world, mankind. This ancient ritual is seen from the time of Abraham as well, right down to the first century. So, and that's just a little something on the stages of ritual marriage from the Bible. And just hearing that, you can see how much it's changed right now, right? And that applies to so many other things in our world as well. Rome is responsible for what Christianity is today. And I don't mean that in a good way. And many of you understand what I'm saying. It's so much pagan ritual. It's so much mother goddess worship. So all that being said, once again, guys, thank you for being here tonight. I got knocked off course there for just over a month or so, but I'm back doing really good. And, hey, man, I just appreciate you guys are here. I've got a guest I'm going to be bringing on here in just a while. Actually, I got two, and we'll get to that here in just a bit. Okay, there's something else, because when I was looking up weddings and ceremonies and rituals, it got me into some other research of some things I kind of wanted to cover with you guys as well. I think you'll find it interesting. And mainly it has to do with Saturn worship. And that's a big subject for a lot of researchers out there. And some people are really good at this, really good at seeing the symbols of Saturn all around us. I've covered a lot of that in a lot of my videos over the years as well, but it's really just saturated all through our culture. And I think I'll probably do a video on it here soon that has to do with what I'm going to read to you guys here in just a moment. I put a lot of different things together, and I'm just going to kind of cut right through this and see what you think, because it's fascinating to me. You know, why are we worshiping the cult of El, E-L, another name for Saturn? It's interesting too, during the Super Bowl, you know, I watched it just like many of you, not for the actual Super Bowl, I could really care less, but for the halftime show and for the commercials. And there's a series on Netflix called Stranger Things. I did a video on this as well, but you know, I thought it was a great show, really interesting, but of course just chock full of all kinds of symbolism that has to do with a lot of the things we talk about. Illuminati symbolism, even Saturn symbolism. One of the things, and in fact, the main girl in the show is a little girl named El. Her real name's 11, and even the 11 is highly symbolic, the Twin Towers and on and on, but El, E-L they call her for short, El. So you have that as well, and there was a commercial for it during the Super Bowl, and it just kind of reminded me of that. It even starts off, it all has to do with the duality world we're in, and all this stuff that's being revealed. We see so much of the duality, as above, so below symbolism. But the whole commercial starts off with El upside down and opening her eyes, and then the camera slowly starts to turn, and it says, "Your world is turning upside down." It's interesting, because again, even that show has a lot to do with the as above, so below, a lot of that kind of symbolism as well. Interesting stuff. But that's the question right now, is why are we worshiping the cult of El? Now, a lot of this comes from Greg Prescott, writer Greg Prescott, and then there's other stuff mixed in there as well, some Jordan Maxwell, just some notes and things I threw together. So the Saturn cult is ingrained into nearly every aspect of our life, yet the true significance of Saturn can be found within secret societies and in the deepest underpinnings of religion. You know, is it possible that the reality we experience has been hijacked by creator gods who keep us living in subservience, control, and conformity? Why do we look forward to the weekend when we are weakened? Why does the word Saturday mean Saturn's Day? Why do we exchange rings when we marry? And why is there so much Saturn symbolism in religion and in the corporate world? Saturn's named after the Roman god Saturnus. It's not a coincidence that Saturn is called the Lord of the Rings. Lord God in that respect, I guess, but not our true Lord God. Okay, anyway, then it is possible that during a wedding ceremony, we are giving our energy to Saturn through the exchange of rings, right? Is it a coincidence that most people get married on Saturday as well, Saturn's Day? It's also more costly to marry on Saturday, so we also give away the energy of money to the Saturn cult. Semitic civilizations referred to the god Saturn as El, E-L, who is the supreme deity and represented by a black cube. Now, I've covered the black cube in a lot of things as well, and I'll just keep reading here because a lot of it's going to ring true to you. Okay, so that is why today, when you get married before God, and the symbol of that God is the ring that is put on each other's fingers, the ring of Saturn. In the marriage phrases, one also begins to see what it all has to do with Saturn. And that's from Jordan Maxwell, Matrix of Power. In astrotheology, Saturn is Satan, the cult of El. The ancient name of Saturn was, as mentioned, El, and it is the reason why those that were chosen by El were called elites. In fact, the words elect, elder, elevated, Elohim, temple, circle, gospel, apostle, disciple, evangelist, more and more, derive from the cult of El. That angels are messengers of God, but God was El to these people, which is why we have the names of the archangels bearing the El. Now that comes from Michael Sarian. I'm giving the names of some of these sources because it's up to you to kind of look into this for yourself and some of these people. Jordan Maxwell, I like a lot of what he does, but I disagree with just as much, so same way with Michael Sarian and a lot of these other people as well. You eat the meat and you throw away the bones. You can gain true knowledge from all kinds of people and different sources, but we have to be careful, all right? It doesn't mean you buy everything they say 100%. Just throwing that out there. But each day of the week has its own meaning and significance. For example, the most obvious day is Sunday, the day many people worship the sun or Son of God. Well, this goes back to that pagan stuff that comes from Rome. But what about Saturday? Why is Saturday associated with Saturn worship? The Romans named Saturday Dies Saturni, Saturn's day, no later than the 2nd century for the planet Saturn, which controlled the first hour of that day, according to Vettius Valens. For Jews, Messianics, and Seventh-day Adventists, the 7th day of the week, known as Shabbat or Sabbat, stretches from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday and is the day of rest. Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches distinguish between Saturday and the Lord's Day. The half-man, half-goat pagan god Pan has been associated with Saturn as well, while Saturn rules Capricorn. Capricorn is represented by a goat-fish hybrid. Can you think of any other horned deities who might be associated with Saturn? I'm sure you can. Now, Pan was a composite creature, the upper part with the exception of his horns being human and the lower part in the form of a goat. The pipes of Pan signify the natural harmony of the spheres, and the god himself is a symbol of Saturn because this planet is enthroned in Capricorn, whose emblem is a goat. And that's from the book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, and that's from Manly P. Hall. And if you really want to grasp the mysteries, just understand the filter it's coming through. Manly P. Hall was one of them, but if you want to see how they think and even their religion, check out Manly P. Hall. The Secret Teachings of All Ages, a really good one to check out. Esoteric studies and secret societies are in on this as well. The Fraternitas Saturni, FS, the Brotherhood of Saturn, has become known to English readers through fragmentary descriptions which emphasize the sensational, sex magic aspects of this lodge's work, or else its dark or more satanic side. This is understandable in light of the fact that the FS is or was the most unabashedly Luciferian organization of the modern Western occult revival, and its practice of sexual occultism perhaps the most elaborately detailed of any such lodge. The FS represents a unique blend of astrological cosmology, neo-Gnostic demonology, sexual occultism, and Freemasonic organizational principles. This grand synthesis was originally the vision of one man, the longtime Grand Master of the FS, Gregor A. Gregorius. And that's from Stephen E. Flowers. Saturn is also known as Kronos, aka Father Time. Kronos in Greek mythology was the leader and the youngest of the first generation of Titans, the divine descendants of Uranus, the sky, and Gaia, the earth. He overthrew his father and ruled during the mythological Golden Age until he was overthrown by his own son Zeus and imprisoned in Tartarus. And as Father Time, Saturn keeps us locked into linear sequential time. It seems we never have enough time to get everything done, but this is only a myth in the physical existence because as divine souls, our lives are eternal. On the back of US $1 bill, you'll find the phrase Annuit Septis Novo Ordo Seclorum, which means agreed to undertakings, agreed to undertakings, a new order of the ages. While many believe this means just straight New World Order, it actually means a new order of the ages. The Great Seal of the United States was first designed in 1782 and has been printed on the back of the US $1 bill since 1935. You'll also find this phrase on the coat of arms, the Yale School of Management and Yale University's Business School. The phrase Novo Ordo Seclorum is taken from the 4th Eclogue of Virgil, which contains a passage which reads, and there's a bunch of Latin, and I can't read Latin. So I'm going to continue on. So when people flip a coin, they'll ask heads or tails. If Pan is the god of Saturn, then could this be phrased as the head of a man or the tail of a goat? Which gods are we actually trusting? If you look at the etymology of the word Kabbalah, of the word Kabbalah, Kaba equals cube, and Allah means God. So you get the cube of God. Saturn is the cult of El. The Kabbalah is the cube of God. Saturn is the Lord of Rings. There is a hexagonal cube on the North Pole of Saturn, which is pretty amazing to see. You should check that out. There's footage. You can see that. Pan is the god of Saturn, and Saturn is Satan in astrotheology. So there's just some that I wanted to get into there. I'm planning on doing a video on this whole subject, but I want to share some of that with you because it kind of connects back to the ceremonies and rituals that a lot of people are involved in today. And in specific, we were talking about wedding ceremonies. So cool. I'm going to go ahead and jump over here to the chat and see what's up. Say hi. Make sure you can even hear me, because sometimes I'll start the show and there's some kind of difficulty and my mic's not even working. So wouldn't that be embarrassing if I came over here and realized I haven't even been heard? So hopefully you've heard me. Got a great chat going already, man. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you all for being here. I already see some questions popping up. What's up, Twitwit? Good to see you. Mister, how you doing? Gosh, there's so many. Sorry, guys, if I can't shout you all out, but thank you all for being here, man. I really appreciate it. We got a great community here. We really do. You know, we got a great community, and they're all individual thinkers. We're all critically thinking. We're using our logic, our reason, our spiritual discernment, and that's what we need to be doing. And I love it. I love being a part of it. Once again, I thank you for helping me, us, to create this, really. So you know what I'm going to do? Let me go ahead and bring my guest on, my first guest here. I need to grab the link for him, and I'm going to go ahead and put it over there on his Skype, and hopefully he's listening right now, and we'll bring him on. And I think you're going to enjoy this. I know I'm going to. I found his channel not long ago, really liked what I saw and what I was hearing, and mostly I liked him. I thought great energy, a knowledgeable person as well, and I'm looking forward to meeting him. And we're just going to do it like this, like I'm going to meet him on here with you. We're going to get to know him, and we're going to discuss some different things. So if you're listening, my friend, I'm putting that link right now in the Skype, and I'm sending it over to you. And that's what you'll click to get in there or get in here on the show. Just remember, if you want to have your camera off, it's up to you. You can be seen or not, but it'll automatically come on with your camera on. So that's just in case you're, wearing something weird. I don't know. We're just getting to know each other. You could have on those pajamas that have sewn in socks at the bottom, and it's kind of like a full onesie for an adult. And that would be okay. Those seem very comfortable to me. I'll tell you this, Snuggie. I don't know if you guys remember that. The infomercials for Snuggies. It's basically like a towel that you can wear or something, and it just looks great. I never had one, but I always thought about picking up a Snuggie. But where do you find them? I guess I could find them online. I don't know. But anyway, I'm rambling, and this is what I do sometimes. But anyway, I put the link in there. Let me check over here and see if he's able to join us yet. And not yet. So I'm going to go ahead and try this one more time. And thanks for your patience. And his first name is Jacob. So Jacob, if you're listening, I'm going to go ahead and put this link over there one more time for you, and see if you can't jump in here with us. So give me 1 second, guys. Let's see here. All right, let's see. Make sure he's online here with me. I just wrote to him. And then do this. And if he doesn't jump on here in a second, then I'm just going to jump over here and answer some questions, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. There's been a lot going on, and we can get into that, okay? Okay, cool. There he is. So I don't know if he's listening or not, but he's writing to me right now on Skype. Oh, okay. Looks like he's trying, so he should get in a second. So let me just write to him, let him know I'm waiting. Thanks again for your patience, guys. Appreciate it. You know how it is. I'm unprofessional. So sometimes we just kind of wing it. You know what I mean? So let's see. Try this one more time. And I've definitely had my share of technical difficulties and things like that throughout the years on here, doing these kind of shows. And there he is. I think I heard something.
Hey,
hey man, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, man.
Oh, great. It's good to hear from you. Thanks. You saved me. I was going down fast. I was about to break out the jokes.
No, yeah, I mean, once you got into the Snuggie, I thought maybe it was time.
Yeah, that was the signal. Well, welcome, man. Hey, guys, this is Jacob Israel.
Hey.
What's up, Jacob? And as I was saying, just such a motivational guy. I really love your energy, and I found your channel not long ago. We've been trying to talk here off and on for a while, guys, but you know, when the accident hit, I was out, you know, for quite a while, but now we're able to kind of try again. So Jacob, welcome. How's life? How are you today?
And I am super excited to be here. I'm a huge fan of you, man. You have you're just like a beautiful person. You got like this amazing heart, and it comes through. And you know, when I found you, it's just interesting. It's interesting how everything works out. You know, and I sent you that one, and I remember when I commented on one of your videos because I was just so blown away. And I remember thinking, man, it'd be great if he saw my comment, and then he came over and then saw me, and then said, hey, why don't you come on over? And literally within like 2 days, you had found my channel and reached out to me.
Man,
something about the power of intention, man. You know. So
yeah. Well, from the second I just started listening to you, I liked you, and I knew you're someone I wanted to meet and talk to, and I felt you'd be great to have on because I think people need to hear from you. And so, without further ado, we'll kind of start breaking down the mystery of Jacob. But I want to find out, man. So just if you want to tell us a bit about yourself, maybe even your testimony, how you kind of got into the truth. Go ahead.
I have a very bizarre story. My mother had me when she was a teen mom. So she had me when she was about 18 years old. Had to drop out of high school and everything else. We were very poor in a rather wealthy town. I never met my father. What's interesting about all that is I ended up living with my grandparents for a little while in a place called Adams Garden, which I thought was so cool because that was like our backyard. It was like a project. And I just always had this vibe that I was kind of meant to do more with life, seek more in life. I guess when you don't have a father in your life, a father figure, you start to, you want more from life. So you start seeking it, and then I got very, very ill when I was about 15 of Crohn's disease and something called ankylosing spondylitis. If anybody knows anything about it, it's not that much fun. But the good news is, everything kind of goes into remission at a certain point in time, and the right attitude and, and faith and eating right and taking care of yourself will get you there. So I was real sick for a long time. And because of that, that's how I got involved with writing and acting, actually, because I couldn't do sports. So,
oh, no way. Was this in New York the whole time now?
Yeah, no, actually, this was back in Connecticut. And
oh, my bad. Okay.
Yeah. So, so while everybody else was doing sports, I was too sickly and I didn't really fit in. I was kind of, because of the medication, I was like broken out and wasn't the most attractive young man. So I wasn't the most popular there, which is cool because, it made me, you just want to please people. I think that everything that happens in life happens for a reason. And, you can get lost in thinking that when you're going through hard times, that nothing good will come out of it. And if it wasn't for everything that I went through and you've gone through, and everyone listening, we wouldn't be where we are today. So I wouldn't change any of it. But, so after getting very sick, I ended up breaking my neck, which was really kind of interesting.
Wow.
And I wrote my first play because of it. So I would have never become a writer had I not broken my neck. And I would have never been interested in writing plays if I hadn't never gotten sick. And I wouldn't have gotten involved in many of the things that I've been involved in had it not been for every single bump in the road,
Which came first? What was it? The breaking the neck, or was it that you wrote after that? Is that what happened?
The Crohn's disease. The Crohn's disease came first. It was when I was about 15, and that basically continued. I've had surgeries and blood transfusions, and anybody who has Crohn's, they understand it can be. It's not a very fun disease, especially when you're young. But it came after. It came right when I had gotten back from college. I went to college. I was the first one in my family to go to college, and I won a scholarship for acting. But I was always one of these people. Oh, thank you. I take a bow. I was always one of those people that believed that you could do anything that you wanted in life, and there was nothing really that could hold you back. So every time I set a goal for myself, I just believed that I would get there next, and it would happen. Sort of like coming on your show today.
Yeah, well, you're right, and that's something we'll discuss more because it's something you and I share, which I've seen in some of your videos. But it's about intention. Again, we'll go back to that in a bit. But yeah, that we are co-creators of our own reality through God, through Jesus Christ. I believe that.
Amen.
And it's so important to, like my mom, when I was living down in Central America, and I had the bike, she's always like, "Oh, you're gonna wreck on that. Don't be careful." I'd be like, "Mom, don't do that.
Don't be speaking that over me."
I know. And then I got home. Well, yeah, I got home, and then she's like, "I told you." I'm like, "Mom, I told you." But anyway,
words have power. Man,
what's that?
Words have power.
Yes.
It's not a joke. There's a reason why God created by speaking. Everything. Even if you're into any kind of quantum physics, or if you get into any of that, which I think is fascinating, everything has to do with vibration. And the spoken word, it's once it's out there, it doesn't. There's a great passage that says, my word will not return void. It'll accomplish what I sent it out into the world to do. So basically, it's like once you put those words out there, they're like toothpaste. You can't really put them back in. They're there, and they're going to accomplish what. That's why you need to take every thought captive. So what I started doing early in life was I started telling people what was going to happen and where I was going to go next. And that, like I said, that started pretty early in life. And I always wanted to be a director, and we didn't have a directing track at my school. And I just said, no, I'm going to be the first, the director. And then after college, in my senior year, I was doing a play called Midsummer Night's Dream, and I was playing Oberon. And I remember, the teacher, he was kind of like my mentor. He had said, "Oh, when you get out there, you're not going to make it. It's very difficult." And I said, "Not only will I make it, but in a year's time, I'm going to call you up, and you'll be in a movie that I'm starring in." And it actually happened. I
love it.
I started a theater company called Cambion Theater Company, and at this place called Stanford Theater Works, and a young man by the name of John Dory, who's just a brilliant writer and director, got cast in it, and we became fast friends. And he was going to do a film, and he asked me to write the film. So here we are a year after college, and I'm writing a feature film, and I'm starring in it. And at the time, I don't remember if you remember the movie Dazed and Confused.
Yeah, Tom Cruise, right? No. Dazed and Confused was Austin. It was the indie director, Linklater.
Yeah, and Sasha Jensen was one of the leads. He starred in this film, and also a comedian by the name of Alan King was in it. And I played the bad guy, which was nice for a young kid. So it's so I believed it would happen. I kind of put my faith there. I just kind of felt like it was meant to be, and it became. And then I became the I don't know if you probably don't know this about me. I was the head writer for World Wrestling.
Get out of here. I love it. See, I told you. I knew that I wanted to have you. You are an interesting dude. Keep going.
Yeah. So I was, once again, I was sick. And at the time I was very flared up. And, they didn't know that I had ankylosing spondylitis at the time. They thought it was related to my Crohn's. I was walking around with a cane. I was in constant pain. And I stopped at the store to just basically get a new mattress. And the owner of the store asked me if I needed a job. I was just out of college. I took the job. And within a short period of time, I was doing that film in town, and there was a big, article in the paper. And Shane McMahon had come in to the store, and we got to talking. And I said, "Hey, do you have writers? Do you need writers for your show?" And I started sending in scripts, and I started seeing them on the air. And I wasn't a huge fan of the show at the time, but I, of course, said, I'm a big fan. I was when I was younger.
Of course.
So I ended up becoming the lead writer. I was the number 2 guy, and it was just me and one other guy, and we wrote from 1999 to 2001, and the ratings went through the roof because at the time WCW was beating them, and Vince Russo had left, and they had just hired me on. I was like a nobody, in the grand scheme of things. But I always kind of felt like I wasn't, like Vince used to give me a hard time because I'd be reading the Bible in the back of his plane. And you know, I got to tell you, there's a whole story there. I don't like to talk about the stuff that went on backstage because there were a lot of really wonderful people, but a weird environment. And
well, I was going to ask you because I know the audience will just be dying to hear a few things. And I feel you. I worked out there in LA for a long time, and you're right. There's some people I don't even want to mention because it's like, I don't know.
Right.
It just doesn't, like, I think they're decent people. They just gotten bad stuff. But
yeah,
some stories I've told those. So please let us know, because I'm curious, because, you know, there's always Illuminati Exposed, World Wrestling, and I'm curious to see if you saw angles of that. So go ahead.
Well, I don't know if you remember a group called the Right to Censor. I don't know how many diehard WWF or WWE fans were. Well, Right to Censor was something that it was basically I created it. It was Vince's idea. He wanted to do something against censorship. And what I saw it as an opportunity was I saw it as an opportunity to show Vince that you don't need the you don't need all the sex, you don't need all the violence, you just need good story. So what this group did was you weren't allowed to have any more bikinis, and all the stuff that they were kind of known for, all the salacious stuff was now taken away. No excessive violence, no vulgarity, and they had the highest ratings on record. And the irony is the people that were in the group, a good friend of mine, Michael Manna, he actually has a channel called Agent S, which is pretty cool. You guys should check it out. And Stevie Richards was his wrestling name. He was kind of the leader of this group, but they were all kind of like C-level wrestlers. They weren't headliners. Like I wrote for Rock, I wrote for Austin and Undertaker, and I wrote for all the main guys. But I also thought that it was important to work on the lower level guys. But at the same time, like I said before, I was going through this crisis because I kept saying, like, why am I here? Like, I'm supposed to do amazing things in the world for good, and I'm not supposed to be doing this. And I was young, and it's like, how do you turn your back on that? And I remember when I walked away from it was there was a WrestleMania, and the match was Triple H versus Undertaker, and it was a part of the match where Triple H, he used to use a sledgehammer and he cracked him in the head. And I remember standing out in the audience, and there was like all these people, and it's a very interesting thing to get people to cheer where you want them to cheer and boo where you want them to boo. It's a really interesting.
I bet that felt really good. Seriously.
It did. And, and not only that though, but like I used to write things that, I mean, if you go back and if people, just YouTube, Right to Censor, if you listen to some of the things that these wrestlers were saying they were getting booed for, it was stuff that you'd listen to and you say, wow, amen. That's the truth. You don't care about the children. You don't care about this. You don't care about, all you care about is money and a brand. And there's a reason why they are branded the way they are, the Attitude Era. That's interesting times, man. So
what did you? I'm sorry. Don't let me stop you. Keep going.
No. So what happened was I saw this young child. I hate saying kid because it's like goats. I always think of baby goats. It's kind of, we've been brainwashed to say kid.
Yeah.
This young child. He's probably about maybe 8 to 10 years old, and he was with his mother. And right when Hunter hits him, he goes, "That's why we're here, Mom." At that point, I just said, that's it. I can't do this. My son Noah was just born. And I said, I got to get out. And I prayed. I said, get me out of here. Get me out of here. And that's exactly what happened. I ended up leaving, and I ended up taking over another show, my own show this time, called Thunderbox, which I said I was going to do. I said I was going to leave here and I was going to do my own show. And then from there, I said, I want to do this. This is where you're gonna really laugh. I thought, because I wasn't raised in the church. I wasn't, my mother, like my grandmother was my nanny, who I was very close with. She was Catholic, and they were active in their Catholic church. Every Sunday they'd be praying for me, and because I was always in the hospital or something. And just a wonderful one. But all I knew was the Catholic Church. I didn't really know anything about faith outside of that, except for my own personal, relationship. And so what ended up happening was I said, I'm going to take over Christian TV. That was my next big. And I told everybody, I said, look, I'm going to leave here. The Thunderbox, it did very well. It went on Fox Sports. It was on BET. It was on Telemundo. It did really, really well. And I was tired of it again, because once again, it wasn't exactly doing what I wanted to do and what I felt like I was, intimately called to do. So I said, I'm going to do Christian TV because that's where I'm supposed to go next. And it wasn't until I got there that I realized, oh my goodness, this isn't exactly what I expected.
Right.
Yeah, so I ended up becoming the head writer and the producer for, I don't know if you've ever heard of a network called Daystar Television Network.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I took over the Joni show, and and they didn't have anybody who knew anything about TV really, and these are beautiful people who really, I compare it to like being a spy in Rahab's house. It was kind of like I was put there. Look, my name's Jacob. Jacob wrestled. I worked for wrestling. Jacob went to work for Laban. Laban was a sheep shearer. Laban worshipped a bunch of gods that wasn't the true God, right? Laban didn't care about the sheep. He just fleeced the flock. And I worked for Laban as well. And I was a shepherd. Everything that I wrote, I really put a lot of my heart and my soul into, and I never got involved in any of the nonsense. I did a talk show. I created a cartoon called Captain Macaroni. You can see it online if you look it up.
I will look it up sometime. Yeah.
And I was there for probably about 9 years. And it was really hard to walk away from, but I was very, very unhappy. And I was okay with what I was doing, but I knew that I was meant to do more. So what I started doing, so I wrote my novel, The Calling. Now this is an interesting thing too, because the publisher that I was stuck with was not doing right by me, and I kept praying and saying, I got to get out of this. I don't know how it's going to happen. I have like 5,000 more copies I got to sell. I sold a lot, but it would have taken some time, and I don't like. You don't do this either. I don't like putting my YouTube up there and say, hey, buy my book. I don't like doing that.
Man, I know.
I feel
it's
weird
hard
about
to ask
it.
for that. Yeah.
So, but on the flip side of the coin, it's a beautiful book, and I wish more people would know about it. So I wanted to get out of it, but I didn't know how. And I have a great agent, and I didn't listen to him, and I should have listened to him, because I basically jumped on this Christian publisher. Go figure, right? Another Christian organization who turns out to be, they ended up becoming rather corrupt. And now they're out of business. So I'm out of my contract.
Wow, that's great.
Now it's amazing. This year has been such an amazing year for me. And it's all kind of coming together, which is why I think more than ever, your channel is going to blow up bigger than ever before. I think that a lot of people who have just a heart to do the right thing, I think that's what's important. It's really about spirit,
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, and I agree, because we're living at the time, we have been for a while, and I always say the veil's lifting, but you know what I mean. And just to put it into the right, the right way, but all the mysteries are coming out, all the secrets are coming out, and this is the stuff they've held in the lodges and the secret societies for years, and we're giving it through the Holy Spirit, where they're giving it, in shadows, just to a select few. So this is a beautiful, wonderful time. I was a little worried at the end of 2016 because of all the major censorship, and I know I shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I was worried for you, actually. I was listening to a couple of because it was weird what happened, right?
Yeah, it's all been weird because Facebook and Twitter too, and it's mainstream that they've become more censored, and YouTube's been really crazy. My views haven't been the same since they started this thing. At least, what's weird is my analytics show that my videos are bigger than what my numbers are showing, and I'm not trying to pump myself up. It's like they don't want people to see that there's still a big reach here. I don't know what it is, but it's not just me. It's other channels, and like we say, I try not to even discuss it too much, because now what I'm saying is that, I believe it can be conquered, and I believe we're going to keep moving forward, and that we can be protected. And even though we may lose a few battles, we're going to win the war. So, we hang in there and we keep producing, and like you, I can't stop. I mean, I don't want to stop. It's just a part of me,
Well, I mean, how can you stop being who you were, born to be?
Yes, that's so true.
There's that passage that God will give you the desires of your heart, and a lot of people. And it's funny because what does the world teach you? It takes this beautiful truth and then it twists it right into, well, if you want a brand new car, that's your desire. God's going to give it to you. You just got to pray right. You got to tithe more. You got to park the cars at the church. You're going to get what you want, but that's not what it was. What it was the desire that you have. It was given to you by God. So it's like,
I love it, man. You just
like,
hit such a beautiful truth. And since you worked in entertainment, these people as well, because a very good friend of mine who was a director out in LA was like this, but they were really big into The Secret and all that, and I looked into some of that, and even back then I could tell it was wrong. And just like you said, it's
I
like,
agree with you.
we already get this.
Yeah.
You know, we already can have these things. We don't need, it never gives credit to God. That's the thing. All the secret never really gives credit to the Lord Almighty, at least that God. But go ahead.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And you know, another thing too is that it almost perverts it to a point where it becomes of, you know, it becomes of no effect. So if you're teaching everybody, if you're taking something that's pure and truthful, and then you pervert it, you may have some kind of, you may find people that are using it and they say, oh yeah, I swear by it. But on the flip side of the coin, you reap what a person reaps what they sow. So it doesn't matter if you get that promotion at work and you believe the secret. What matters is whether or not you have joy and peace, you know, and purpose in your life. True. And you know, I worked in Christian TV for so long. You know, I've spoke to and I've worked with. I mean, look, Ted Haggard was on. I don't know if you know anything about Ted Haggard. But,
I do. I was actually in a while going to start going down the list and asking you about some of these guys. But yeah,
I know them all. I know them all, and yeah, I had him on the talk show, and for whatever reason, you know, I wrote all the shows, and we didn't have a second program, so they said, you know, just come up with whatever. And my program I decided to do was based on being, you know, not condemning people and the things that you allow, and everything that's hidden is going to be revealed, and you know, not lying to people and coming out and being honest. And basically the show was about honesty and about truth and about walking, you know, walking the walk. And ironically, right after we did that show, the news broke about him, and you know, my heart broke for the guy. I felt really, really terrible because here's this man who was, you know, really just condemning so many people. And
well, if you don't mind, just for the audience, in case they don't know, I'll give them a brief. But Ted Haggard was a very popular TV preacher and big in that whole mainstream kind of Christian community, and would preach really hardcore against homosexuality. And then it was discovered that he was smoking meth and having homosexual relations. So
with a prostitute on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, you know, what you find in this, that he's not the only one. There are many that are. So I mean, look, it's this lifestyle where you become God yourself. You're worshiping the wrong God to begin with. The idea that they have of, you know, it's even hard. I don't even like labeling God as God, because it's like, how can you even put something into? It's like, it's hard to describe. You know, I've tried to explain it to you know, my children without the word God, because you get the picture of a man with a beard, and we know that. You know,
True. I try Heavenly Father. I mean, typically, what do you like to use? Go ahead.
I still use God, and I do. You know, I do pray a lot, and I say Father, and you know, and these are things that, you know, comfort me, and I know that it's, you know, our prayer life is so very important, and what I really liked about you was when you told me earlier on the phone that, you know, you can pray about these things before you do them, and I do too, and I don't think enough people even understand what prayer is. I think that, you know, that because what's happened is, here are these keys to the kingdom, if you will, right? You know, we were given these keys, and the problem is then religion has done everything they can to kind of shackle you and keep the truth from you, and it's funny because the truth is revealed spiritually through these stories if you just ask. See, not many people even ask. They don't ask, teach me the truth, no matter what the cost. You know, I can't tell you how many Christians I've met who, you know, you'll see them, they're slain out in the spirit, and they're this and they're that, and they're speaking in tongues and they're doing all that. And then you see them a week later, you know, struggling with this or struggling with that, or and you ask them, why aren't you, have you ever said, teach me the truth? Like, how do you know that the man that's teaching you, who we know has some serious issues in the cupboard, how do you know that you're being led the right way? You know, a lot of people don't understand that the word church, ecclesia, doesn't mean a building. It means to be called out of that. Religion is what killed Jesus to begin with.
Yes,
you know,
true.
I say this sometimes. I get criticized sometimes where, you know, like Jesus was criticized for taking the literal story and teaching the spiritual aspect of it, like the part where Paul was explaining that when Moses beat the rock and it gave forth the water, he was explaining, look, that rock wasn't a literal rock. They've been teaching us a literal rock. That rock that gave everyone life was Christ. And so Jesus would do the same thing. So I like to take some of these stories, and like Jesus is called the way, the truth, and the life. And these things opened up to me, especially in 9/11. I'm going to tell you something about 9/11 is going to blow your mind. But the way, the truth, and the life. So if you take, religion will kill that. And where do they kill it? Well, in our thinking, right? Well, where was Jesus put to death? Literally at a place called Golgotha, which is the place of the skull. So it's almost like spiritually the truth, because of religion's hands and the politicians' hands and society's hands, the truth is literally put to death in our thinking in the temple. And it's all about trying to find a way to, get other people to just simply say, hey, I want to know more, regardless. I don't even tell people what to believe, KJ, because I just think that I know that all I had to do was ask.
Yes, I'm kind of the same way with that. I stay away from that. Exactly. Like this is what, because,
right.
The student finds their teacher, and that I can only give them so many seeds. You can give them some seeds, but hey, maybe they're just not ready, man. And then eventually they'll find the person that's going to push them on to the next level,
Right. Absolutely. And I have no doubt that it's under control. And if I don't help that person out, I'm not stressing about it because I know someone else will come along. It's not, my job really is just to love people and to share my life with them. Look, can I tell you about 9/11 and what happened with me? Because that was really
please do. And before you do, I'm curious. I got to throw this out there just because, and this has to do with a bit of the troll culture on YouTube. But do people give you crap for the last name Israel? And he's a Jew and he's a Zionist.
Yeah. I'm not. I'm Italian. Yeah, they do absolutely. And I get the big nose thing too a lot. Big hook nose Jew.
Oh man, see that's just that. Go ahead.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
Exactly.
And that's fine. And there's listen. Israel's not my last name. I took that name for a very specific reason, and I knew early on why I was going to take it. And because just the story of Jacob Israel, it's the story of a changed life. I want people when they see that name to understand that there is the idea of who we think we are in this world. There is the Jacob, and then there's the one that overcomes. There is the Israel who's blessed. There's the Adam, and then there's the last Adam. There's the Cain, and then there's the Abel. There's always
I love
it. And that's kind of what 9/11 did to me. Which was,
go for it. Yeah, please.
I was doing a show called Thunderbox, and we had a kind of like a get together, a soiree at some penthouse in the city on the 10th, and so it was a little bit late. We were supposed to get up early, and then I said, look, why don't we'll meet together tomorrow in the city at like say 3 o'clock. So I pushed our meeting, and because I live in Long Island, and so I ended up going to the gym in the morning. That's when I saw it, and of course we didn't go in the next day, and then the next day we didn't go in either. It was just a terrible time. I had lost people that I knew, and just it's a horrible time. But this is what really blew my mind, and this is where I really started to wake up, because even the timing of it. Even the date I think is significant, and it was significant in my life, especially in how old I was at the time. I was at this bagel store, and I was getting a bagel, and I looked over at the newspaper, and there was the Newsday, and there was a picture of the Twin Towers, and they were on fire, and there was something about the two ones, the 11, and the duality of it that just struck me, and I don't know what it was why it struck me so.
I want to throw this in quickly, just on your 9/11 thing. It's very interesting. I did my Super Bowl video, but and I touched on it, I think, maybe. But it was interesting because Gaga, during this performance, which is really a ritual about Lucifer falling from the sky or the devil falling from the sky, she was dancing at one point, and all of her dancers between two burning towers. So go ahead.
Wow, I didn't. Yeah. I was so happy you did that too, because I was like, I didn't even bother trying to look into it. I just can't wait. Please let KJ do this show.
Thanks, man.
So it was the weirdest thing.
Bagel shop. Go ahead.
Twins. So let's just take this for a second. Twins were thrown to the ground, and they were swallowed by the earth. And around 3,000 people were swallowed by the earth, and they died. Now, in Moses' day, tablets of stone were thrown to the ground, and around 3,000 people were swallowed by the earth, and they had to be sacrificed. They were killed. Here's the weird thing: is both had something to do with a big, gigantic golden bull. And there was something about that, just the Bull of Wall Street and Baal and the twins coming down, and then around 3,000 people dying, and it almost like it just reminded me so much of that. And I remember that passage that says, "There's nothing new under the sun, and whatever's been will be again." And then, like, almost, I hate to say supernaturally, but I just was like, kind of, everything started opening up in Scripture, and I realized that there was this duality of man that was coming down. So, like, what was taking place in the literal was actually something also that was taking place in the spiritual. And, like, out of the blue, I understood that, the first man, Adam, he brought death into the world. He was a killer. And then there was the last man, Jesus, who was a shepherd, and he brought life. So you have the first Adam and the last Adam. One's a killer, one's a shepherd. And then Adam had these two children, Cain and Abel. And the firstborn, Cain, was a killer. And then the second, Abel, was a shepherd. And of course, God, was pleased with the shepherd, the secondborn. And Abraham had two sons, Ishmael and Isaac. The firstborn, Ishmael, he was a hunter, he was a killer, he had to be sent away. But the secondborn was a shepherd. Isaac has two sons, Esau and Jacob. The firstborn's a hunter, he's a killer, Jacob's the shepherd. So, here you have the story of this killer and this shepherd all the way through Scripture. So you have this firstborn man, and then you have this last man, this firstborn and this secondborn. And I'm not talking about spiritually speaking here. I mean, naturally speaking, I'm talking about spiritually speaking. So there's this first idea of who we are, and then there's this last idea of who Christ is in us, revealed in us, which is the hope of glory. So I kind of saw that the duality of man, inside you, there are these two nations that are at war. And I saw that was kind of being torn down. And it was really interesting from that point on how my life had changed. And now where we are today, it's almost like that's it. This is the moment. It's almost like you're going to see the world get more corrupt and more foul and more claustrophobic than ever before. But then you're going to see this other side, this remnant of people, that are going to be, more righteous, more holy, more kind, more loving.
Man, I agree. Before. It's intensifying. That is, I agree. I see it all around me. Yeah, I can spot the ones who aren't rectified yet, if you will, a mile away. And typically I stay away, because people are manifesting more of that demonic energy.
Yeah,
and even with the Twin Towers and all, it makes you wonder if, just throwing it out there, but what if we are the wheat and the tares, all of us, and the only way we can become the wheat is through Christ, right?
Yeah. It's definitely crossed my mind, and not only in the world, but in us as well. You have these, like, I've noticed, man, I don't know about you. I mean, you just went through a hard time too. In our lives, man, we go through these hard times, the word torment in Scripture, a lot of people think it means torture, where it's the smoke of their torment will rise forever. The word torment, the definition of it is to test the purity of a precious stone by touchstone. So basically, you have this core stone, you take gold and you strike it across this rock to see the purity of the stone. And you've also heard the word torment used when you're testing chemicals. You're like testing the purity of chemicals, or you're agitating it. And so what I'm getting at here is that right now I think a lot of people are going through a hard time and they don't understand why, and they're like Jesus on the cross, and they're saying, "Father, why have you forsaken me?" And yet everybody knows that God never forsakes us nor leaves us, right?
Yes, and let me add this too,
Sure.
Just to keep going, because now a lot of people I think are going to relate to this. I have heard from so many people around me in my own life, man, this person died, that one died, all this bad stuff happening. Have you noticed? And even me, since I came back to America, two friends of mine from high school, one of them was my best friend from 7th grade to my early 20s, both died. Yeah, they both died. And I went to one of the funerals, and he was, again, the guy that was my best friend for years, and they both died under the same circumstances. It was mixing pharmaceuticals with drinking alcohol.
Right. Yeah,
so that's a bummer, but that's another indication of the time we're in, and some people are choosing that kind of an escape, unfortunately, and not the spiritual side, I guess. But go ahead.
That bums me out, man. I'm real sorry to hear that, KJ.
It's okay, thank you. What's strange is that I'm not really usually affected by death, really, because I
Right.
knew things were going to work out. And at his wake, we found out that he had accepted Christ and really, was really trying to change his life that last couple of years. And the saddest part was because we'd lost contact for like 7 years there, but I'd come home and try to find him, but he'd never answer calls. And I found out why, because he had been living for several years. I talked to the last guy that was his friend, and his face was apparently fully round at this point, and the rest of his body was still in shape because of the
Right.
alcohol, and that he was drinking. And all he would do, this guy was telling me, was talk about the old days when he hung out with me and all of us, all of our friends, and he wasn't looking at the future anymore. So to me, it was like he was just in pure misery for years. So it was like one thing or the other. So at least he's free now. And that's how I felt. My cousin died a few months ago. Same thing. You're free now. And you know what I mean? He was living in misery as well. He's a schizophrenic. So I don't know. But anyway, just throwing that out there. I'm getting off track. But so yes. So go ahead, man. You're right. We're living in a time where it's, go ahead.
I think that, there was a time when I'll tell people about myself. Like, I have not always been the man that I am now. There was a time when I saw a therapist, and the therapist had me on all sorts of pharmaceuticals. I mean, I was on, and it was like, if this didn't work, it was something else. And I just, man, it made me more and more unhappy. And I got to the point where when I was younger, I was cutting myself because I didn't understand. I had all this pain. Now, meanwhile, all this pain, and yet still somebody who has great faith, and I didn't get it. And it was like there was this one moment where I remember, it was years and years ago, I'm laying on the floor, and I think I'm having, like in my head, I'm saying, I'm having a nervous breakdown, and I'm crying hysterically. And it was almost like there was like this little, I didn't hear a voice, but this thought came to mind. It said, you could stop crying right now. And and it was like, and I said, I guess I could. And I did. And then it was like, and then I said, well, if I could stop crying, then I could take a breath. And if I could take a breath, then I could stand up. And if I could stand up, I don't need this freaking medication anymore. Excuse me. But I get angry because I was tricked into thinking by this person. There was stuff that had happened, and it was a tough time in my life. And I was tricked into thinking that I had, PTSD from childhood, and I had this, and I had this, and I had all of these issues. Yeah, this is why you're feeling this way, because you have a disease, and you take this pill, and this is going to make you feel better. Meanwhile, those pills made things 100 times worse, and it had nothing to do with the issue. The issue was, I'm not my past anymore. And I'm not my future. I'm not about the fear of what's going to happen. And I'm not about the pain of what went down. I'm about the moment now. And I realized at that point that I can change. Here I had this beautiful life. I was doing these amazing things, and I hated life, Man,
isn't that interesting? I want to ask, too, because I noticed this when I lived out in L.A. I knew some people that were millionaires, had lots of money, and it's not even that they were all depressive, because a couple of them were, but the other ones were just really mean. And it's like they didn't seem to be enjoying any of the riches,
I haven't met many celebrities. I'll tell you what, I haven't met many Christian mega pastors that, were kind and who looked me in the eye. And I've met them all, and I on purpose. And I've spoken to a lot of them and shared things with them that I knew were, really just eye-opening, wonderful insights that just to see, if they would take it or not. And of course, they couldn't possibly take it, because how could anyone have any kind of wisdom that wasn't a multi-gabillionaire?
Man, that's interesting. I was going to ask because I'm sure there's certain symptoms that all of these mega pastors have, but I imagine narcissism is
narcissism.
Probably
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So.
And it's well, you got to remember, first of all, it's a very narcissistic field, because you basically get people to worship you. You stand on an elevated platform, and and everybody kneels when you want them to kneel, pray when you want them to pray.
Language.
And I noticed early on, because I go to these events, and I just loved how the stuff that happened in Scripture, where Jesus would say, they choose the choice seats, and like at every event, there was always like the tapered off seats for the pastor's friends or the celebrities or whoever was showing off, and they make these bold, long statements about how much they give, and of course they do that. And so it's almost like and outside, and if you want to call the congregation, you want to talk about a church, and you want to talk about when you go into the sanctuary, if you want to call that the inner temple, or the the holiest of holies, which it isn't, of course. But in the outer temple, in the outer court, you have all the tables, lined up with all the Jesus books and the Jesus oils and the Jesus tapes and the Jesus CDs and the Jesus music, right? Because they're selling the sacrifice today just like they did then, because there's nothing new under the sun. And,
wow, that's great. Go ahead.
man, and it really, really troubled me, because here I was working there and I'd say, Lord, what am I doing here? I sat there. I can't say a lot of stuff because it was funny, because the reason I ended up leaving was I used to make these declarations, and I don't even know, because I have a big mouth, and I would just say things like, on the studio floor there was all these cracks in the studio floor, and I said, hey guys, the foundation of this place has been cracked for a long time and it's getting worse. And they're like, what? I said, look at the floor. It's a TV network, right? A Christian television network. And the floor, you keep lacquering it. You keep covering it to try to fix the problem. But the problem is you have to dig up the foundation, put a whole brand new foundation down. Don't you see that spiritually there's something wrong?
Beautiful.
And I say this to, the owners of the network and the heads, and of course they didn't like that, but I always felt like it was important to, speak my mind, and I was kind of known for that. And in the beginning, when I first got there, they loved me. They really did. I remember there was a Christmas party, they played a movie about me coming there, and it was the weirdest thing. It was almost like, and I remember sitting there and I said, it's not going to be too long before, King Saul's throwing his spear at me. It's like,
yeah, seriously.
Like, we love David, he's the best, until there's a problem. But the good news is,
I'm curious too. Oh, go ahead. Some of the good news. Then after that, I'm curious if you saw any Freemasonry with all these big guys. So go ahead.
Yeah. But see, another thing too is you sign a lot of paperwork where you leave these places.
Oh, you got non-disclosure agreements, right?
Right. Well, you know what it is? Also, I wouldn't want to, because like I said before, when I came there, they were in like a Piggly Wiggly. They were a lot smaller, but when I got there, they blew up. Just like, when I went to Vince, the ratings were terrible, but within a year's time, he was a billionaire and he bought WCW.
Well, even with that, because I know earlier we talked about the Illuminati stuff or Satanism. I know there's not a lot you can say with WW, but I mean, can you say anything? I mean, are people on target when they're talking about?
Let me put it this way. I'll say one thing is, backstage it is, and I don't think anybody's ever really talked about this, but there's a they have a box, like a prop box, and it's black, and when you're backstage at the arenas, they line the hallways with all of these boxes, for whether it's lights and audio or whatever, and props. And there's this one box, and it was always in the center of every hallway, the main hallway, and it was always opened up. And the irony is, it had 666 written on it. And so it's this black box that's already standing out. When it's open, you see these 3 666s in white. And I always thought that was weird. Now, I also wrote a promo for Austin once about something about going to hell, and he was facing Triple H. And Vince said something that was really weird to me about it, about how he understood that, and he's been there, and whatever. And
interesting.
And it was like, I liked Vince. I thought he was an all right guy. He was never really, he was a little bit of a hothead, but man, they gave me a great opportunity. They didn't give it to me. See, that's another thing too, and I said this to the owners of the Christian Network. I said, you didn't hire me. I said, look at how your place has grown. It has nothing to do with you. I said, I'm when I leave here, things are going to go exactly the way they're supposed to go. And it's funny because, when Jacob left, he got his speckled sheep, and KJ, you have a lot of speckled sheep. You know what I mean?
Thanks, man.
A lot of them.
Good thing.
It is a beautiful thing because, that's really where the ministering needs to happen right now. Is not the people that think that they're so pure. It's the people that understand that, that we're not perfect, and yet that's the way we're seen. And we can take any situation and turn it to revenge. Every bad thing that's happened to me, every terrible thing, like being on the floor that one time and saying, I could do this, it was like, it was an eye-opening revelation for me, because I realized from that point on, like my wife is my best friend. I love her more than anything.
I'm so lucky. I know you know how lucky you are.
I do. But I got to tell you something. I could have lost her very easy because of my insecurity. And and because of you fear, oh, she doesn't love me, or oh, she wants to leave me, or oh, maybe she's seeing somebody else, and you let that fear get into you, that you listen to that lie, because that's what it is. A lot of people don't know that these keys to the kingdom that we're given, with faith all things are possible. Guess what? If you have faith that your wife might leave you, she'll start to want to leave you.
Oh, man. Perfect. You just said it. It's again back to the intention. This is, in fact, that's how your prayers are answered constantly, even when you don't realize you're praying.
Right.
Like you said, if I sit there and start thinking these negative thoughts, or oh my gosh, or like when the accident, I had some people writing, "You're never gonna be the same again." Blah blah blah. It's gonna take months to heal. I mean, this past week, the doctor pulled me out of the sling. So I'm doing good. And he even said, "Man, you're healing really fast." And I know it's the prayers from people, and it's also my positive thinking. I refuse to think it's going to be anything but great.
That's awesome. I mean, you need to, man. And it's like, if you don't take every thought captive to see if they be true. If you don't take these thoughts captive, and what that means, a lot of people don't understand. This is a great way to live your life. God doesn't give you the spirit of fear. A lot of people don't even understand what spirit is. Scriptures tell you what spirit is. Jesus said, "My words are spirit and they are truth." Words are spoken thought. Okay. So every spirit, to see if they be of God or not, God doesn't give us the spirit of fear. So we don't get these thoughts of fear from God. So the thoughts of fear, then, they aren't coming from a place of truth. They're coming from a liar and a lie. And there's torment in fear. When you start worrying about, am I going to get better? You start worrying, am I ever going to get ahead? Or is this job going to work out? Or am I going to get fired? Or you start worrying about all this. That's fear. And it comes to you, it can come to you in a way that you think it's you, but it's not. We don't know where these thoughts come from, but we've been brainwashed and conditioned from birth. Adam was formed from the dust of the earth. If you do a word search of dust in scripture, you'll find dust is compared to lies, imagination, idolatry. Okay. So Adam, mankind, which is what Adam is, a plural word, Adam, mankind. If you take mankind, we were all kind of formed from lies. When we came into the world, we were told, this is who you are, this is who you'll be, this is what you must believe, this is who you must love, this is who you must hate, and we're formed. But that the first man, he dies because we start eating of that knowledge of good and evil, right? We start eating of the wrong tree.
Yes, I love it. You're dropping some great knowledge, man. Go ahead, that's good.
And the important thing is finding out that you don't need to live a life of death anymore. Like if you're down the dumps and you feel like, and you're still operating in Adam, right? And you're still eating of that wrong tree. You can easily switch over and have that resurrected life within you. All you got to do is ask for it. All you got to do is, and it's not, see, this is the thing, is a lot of people think that the instant you say, teach me the truth, it's just going to come to you. Life, it doesn't get easier. We're being taught, we're being schooled, and on our trials, through much tribulation, we enter the kingdom of heaven. And heaven is considered to be righteousness, peace, and joy. So proper thinking, peace, and joy. So we have to go through a lot of tribulation to get there. Kind of like the suffering of the oyster produces the pearl. God,
that's great. I'm loving it, man. See, people need to hear that. A lot of people forget, and it's a delicate dance we do with revealing evil and the things in the world like this, because then some people start getting depressed and freaked out. Right. They start thinking nothing matters, but please continue.
No, I mean, that's the thing too, is a lot of people are so focused on fear and I mean, look, there's an element of, look, you guys got to wake up. There's an element of that. It's not, but on the flip side of the coin, it's like, you got to be excited because look at the time we're in.
Yes.
What is going on?
Oh, man. Yes.
And if you don't think that now, more than ever before, is the time of that revealing, if you don't think that now is the time, then you got something coming, because lawlessness is abound. I mean, it's everywhere.
Oh, I mean, look to Brazil and Venezuela, and these are just possible indicators, really, of how bad it can get in America. Now I wonder too about that sometimes, and I want to get your thoughts on some current events. Because of course Trump got in. I was very surprised. I've said that in the past, that he actually got in.
I got hornswoggled on that one. I got confused.
Yeah. Very interesting, huh? But
a much better plan.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm cooler with him there than Hillary, and so far he's done some pretty good stuff. There's also some things where whether it's him or it's just the way the world is, it's also creating a massive division. And we're seeing that now. We're seeing people riot in the streets, and we're seeing the army of the New World Order. A lot of them are the SJWs, the social justice warriors. A lot of them are the young kids who've been brought up under the Pharaoh for the last 8 years, and under this horribly indoctrinated beast system. It's really grown in the last 8 years under Obama, of course. So that's what we're seeing now. And we're seeing all these kids pre-programmed for all this stuff. And they're just, we're seeing, like you said earlier, and like we discussed, we really are seeing who the wheat is and who the tares are now, even more than before. But go ahead.
And it's going to continue. But, I think the good thing is, and I just did a video about this, about how, like, right now, it's like we're being told what to think on a regular basis. And it's like, this is the story they're telling. You got to hate your neighbor. You got to hate, and it's, man, it's
really bad. Yeah, it's crazy the way they're doing it. A lot of interesting symbolic things happening also just around Trump and Hitler. A lot of it's pushed out by the mainstream, of course, that hates him. And there's just so much, and that's why I don't. That's really my only opinion on Trump now. And like you and I had talked before, I think it was earlier today, about how maybe it was me and you, our conversation. I've had a few today, but one of them was that that God has used wicked men in the past. Paul used to throw Christians into prison, right? King
Cyrus.
David. So yes, Cyrus.
I mean, come on. You want to talk about I'm hoping he's like Cyrus.
Maybe God is working through Trump to do whatever, and that doesn't mean the beast system's gone. It doesn't mean that the elite are going to stop trying. It doesn't mean that ultimately that revelation is going to come true, because it will.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And in the grand scheme of things, it's all. I mean, I believe that it's all part of the plan anyway. It's a lot of people who. It's like, if you believe that there is something that is in charge of everything, which I do. I believe that, that there is this power, this force. I mean, like I said, I call it God. Some call it inspiration. Others have other names for it. But the creator of all is in charge of all. And even if you're starting to look at what's going on right now, I don't know if you know anything about the D-Wave computer or any of these things and what they're trying to do at CERN, and all of this stuff really is, it's almost like they're trying to break the spiritual and natural order of things. It's almost like man is trying to, what's interesting about the Tower of Babel, because this is what I think of. It's like, the word tower, a lot of people don't understand, means an elevated stage, a pulpit, a congregation. A lot of people think it's a literal tower, and it may be. It may have been a literal tower, but I find it interesting that the definition of that word means elevated stage, pulpit, congregation.
Man, that is interesting.
Because man comes together and they said, we could be like God, and they build this, this tower, and it's almost like they created religion so that they could be God, and then God confound their languages. So now you have all of these languages that no one is like, a Baptist can't speak to a Pentecostal can't speak to a Jehovah's Witness can't speak to a Muslim can't speak to. It's like everybody is divided, and there's so many divisions in Christianity, and there's not supposed to be any division in Christ. And yet, so how can anyone think that their specific church is the actual way to go? I mean, I'm not saying that it isn't, but I'm saying I think that people need to put faith within, and they need to say, teach me the truth. I want to know. Show me the way. Get there quiet. Don't be talk. You don't need to go door to door saying know the Lord anymore, because it's written in our hearts and in our minds. It's right there. And I think that all the division that we're seeing, I think that there's a reason for it, because I think that right now we're divided within. And something's going to come of it. I think something good is going to come of it. I hope.
That's a good attitude, man. Yeah, I like that. We definitely are seeing it all around. And even you talking about about the Tower of Babel and all, it makes me think about how symbolic Iraq was, the war, all the things that they did there, even how Bush and Daddy Bush represented Gog and Magog in a lot of ways too, but it's in some respects. But yeah, and also by extension, all the stuff with ISIS destroying a lot of these ancient relics as well, biblical relics and everything else.
Yeah, yeah, that's so interesting. I loved you.
It is. I think it's a sign of, didn't you? Yeah, I think it's a sign of the end of the fourth age, really, and just as we're entering the fifth and the last, and that's all these things are changing. Even Film. Half the people are pirating movies now. No one's going to the movies anymore, really. Politics. You have Trump, you know, whether obviously he's a part of everything that's going on,
Right,
but, to some degree. But, you know, still, he, in many respects, broke the two-party system, you could say, right, on one level or another. But on every level, even with religion, again, we're seeing a push by a lot of the people you knew for the one world system.
Yeah, which is so bizarre, right? So bizarre.
It's all changing. So now it's like going to the individual relationship with God or not. You know, I think that's what it is.
Yeah. And I think that we're going to see, you know, okay, so I'll confess something to you, KJ, and a lot of people see, everybody has a different view on things, and my view is a little bit different than most. But, you know, when I was younger, because of all the studying, like, I never thought that there would be a literal temple that was built and a literal man that was the literal Antichrist saying, I am God, because I saw it spiritually. I saw that we are the temple of God. And I saw that the man that's in the temple of God right now declaring himself to be God is the idea of who we think we are. You know, it's the lie of who we think we are and we are not. And then we think that we're in control of our life. So I always thought, like, spiritually, and like the where you get the mark on your hand and your head, it was like the I always thought that it was like the law that they put on their hand. You know, or
see, I like where you're going. I want you to continue. Keep going, because I imagine you think this as well, because I imagine a lot of these mega pastors keep pushing this idea that, the end's far away. We haven't seen the temple yet.
Right.
We haven't seen this. And that's what they all push, right? That's part of that whole thing with modern Christianity. So, no, man, I'm open to it. You know me. I love hearing different perspectives, and I've got a lot of my own as well. So continue. Go ahead.
You know, but what's bizarre about all this is that I thought somewhere along the line, you know, I had this weird experience where I was speaking in Atlanta, and I have a tendency of, like I said, speaking out, and you know, at the time I was working on my novel, it was about to come out, and I was invited to go speak in Atlanta, and I spoke at this great place, and at the end of it, it was weird because there was like this flash storm, and the power went out, and the theater that I was speaking at was flooded, and I thought, oh, that's interesting and symbolic, and I thought, you know, what's going on here? I don't get it. And then from there on, things started to change a little bit in my life. And I did a video where I had said, oh God, and it was so hard for me to do because I had this terrible dream. And I had said that we were going to enter like the darkest time ever. You got to understand that my videos were always very positive. And I wrote about.
They are. I like that about you. Go ahead.
And I wrote about the allegory of scripture a lot. And I tried to, you know, draw the spiritual inference in a lot of these stories. And so when I did this and I said, look, this is what's going to happen. And I said, by September 15th, we're going to be looking at like World War. And everybody's like, you know, you're crazy. And I lost so many friends. And I lost a lot of people that were, you know, I was just starting to get to a place where I was being invited to go speak. And all of a sudden, you know, it was all gone. And the irony is, by September 15th, Russia had invaded Syria, and we were 5 nations at war, and like all these things that I said was going to happen. Like I said, terrorism was going to come to the United States, and it wasn't like I knew, but I just kind of felt like, because I'm a storyteller and I'm a writer, and I said, I could see this is where it's going. Like I didn't see Trump winning, but I did see one of them winning the popular, one of them winning and I thought Hillary was going to come in, and I saw the nation divided, and I saw them promoting riots and protests, and I saw all the stuff that followed. But when Trump was elected, I said, oh my goodness, if this is all a clever plot, how much more clever was it to put Trump in? You know, like Hillary played a great part of the villain. I mean, why on earth would they put her there? But besides all that, I don't want to get into that because I'm hoping.
I got you. I'm kind of the same way. I rarely do any political videos or anything because that's.
I don't like getting into that. Because then people say you don't like Trump, and I'm not saying that at all. I'm hoping, like I said, that he's like Cyrus. I'm hoping that he comes in and that order is established, and I hope something comes of all this, and I believe it will. Either way.
I want to ask you this then.
Sure.
Then we'll jump off that subject and we'll get into this because I always like asking a guest about this. But what about in your own life, supernatural experiences, both with the light and the dark? Have you had anything really supernatural in your life? I know you've had some dreams, I believe. But...
Yeah. Well, listen, this is kind of where I'm going with this. It's interesting you're asking me, right? So. So I did this video, and I got got so much flack about it. And even when it happened, all the things, like almost legit, like from like one after the other, they all fell in place. People still, I was a lunatic and I was this and I was that, and I had another thing that I thought that I was supposed to, like, see, I'm like you, KJ. I like pray and I say, what should I say? What should I talk about? What should I do? What should I write about? Because I wasn't really focused on my YouTube as much. Like my website was where all my, my essays are, and I have about 300 of them. And
what's the name of the website, real quick, please, for the audience?
JacobIsrael.com. If you'd like to read, I mean, they're long essays, but I mean, if you like digging into things. I am not the end all be all when it comes to truth. You know where to go to that. All you got to do is ask, and it'll be
Perfect.
revealed. But I do love to write. And, and that's why when I left Christian TV, I said, I'm going to give it away for free. And so that's what I started doing. And then I started doing these little videos here and there. And ironically, I didn't have that many YouTube subscribers, because I really didn't put my focus there. But my website was pretty big, and I had like only 520 subscribers at the time. So now I'm going somewhere with this, because you want to talk about.
Go ahead, please continue.
So what's weird about all this was back last gosh, what was it? It must have been in right before April. A colleague of mine came up to me, and I had been praying, like, what should I talk about? And said, hey, this guy, I was telling him about you. I told him to check out your website. And he goes, oh, you got to check out this book. And he handed me this piece of paper, and it had the title of a book on it. And I said, oh, yeah, great. And I put it in my, I'm not a big reader. I like to research, but I don't like to read books so much. I like to write them, So I put it in my pocket. I said, yeah, I'll check it out. I really didn't look into it. Didn't think much about it. The next day, I was like, okay, so I think I'm going to do a video. What should I do the video about? What should I do the video about? And I'm praying, I'm seeking, whatever. And at the time I'm done, I kind of reach in my pocket, and I'm wearing the same pants the day before, because I was lazy. And I pull out this piece of paper, and I go, this has got to be it. And I go over, and it was a piece of paper, and on it, I think the title of the book was called The Earth Chronicles. And I'd never heard of it, so I Google it really quick. But I have to preface this by saying, within that 24-hour span, I had gotten 2 emails, one from a great DJ and producer named The Exhibition. His name's Edgar Asino. And he asked me, he said, Jacob, have you ever heard of the Anunnaki? And I said, I don't know. I think they had something to do with the Sumerian gods. I don't know much about it. I'm not really into that stuff. I said, it's probably some kind of an allegory. I said, I'll look into it. And then I got a random email from somebody else that had showed me this, I guess, this planet that was in this big elliptical whatever, and I didn't really pay much attention to it. And it was just kind of weird. And I said, oh, that's interesting. I got to put it aside. So when I grabbed that piece of paper from my pocket, and I went over and I Googled it, and I realized that the Anunnaki and the planet was this planet Nibiru, right? And I know that this is not a great topic for a lot of people.
No, you're okay. And
sounds nutty.
Go ahead. Those are the best topics. Because go ahead.
Hear me out. Because this is all my hand to God true, on my children's lives true. This is how it all happened. I hate having to do that, but when you hear what happened, it's not going to make any sense. So I look at it and I say, oh, that's a coincidence. I said, but I'm not going to start telling people about some planet that may be spinning around coming towards here, or I don't even believe in aliens. I'm not going to get into that. So I go home and I tell my wife about it, and I say, I said, well, look, I feel like I should talk about it. I don't know why. I'm not really into this stuff. I said, well, look, if you have a dream about it tonight, you let me know, and then I'll do the video. So I go to sleep that night. I have a dream, and in the dream, I see that there's this drone over my house, and Homeland Security's out there, and the FBI. And I told him, I go, don't worry, it's not here yet. And I look over to my right, and there's this guy, and he's laughing hysterically. And I kind of knew him on Facebook. His name's David Daly. He's a theologian. He's an older guy. I wasn't really friends with him, but he used to kind of debate me, and he would kind of tear some of my essays apart until he started, seeing that, there was some truth to it. And I thought that was weird. Why is he in a dream? So I reached out to him on Facebook. I said, hey, why don't you give me a call? And here's my number, if you don't mind. I had a dream about you, because I believe, I don't know if you do, KJ, but I believe that, look, a third of the Bible has to do with dreaming. God spoke to Joseph, Daniel, I mean, how many stories have we heard about dreams and the importance of it?
Wow, that's great. I mean, I'd never thought of it like that, but go ahead. I love it. Go
No,
ahead.
it's very true. I mean, dreams lead us. They're there for a reason, and they're highly symbolic. Which is why, if you have a dream in this future, you should pray and ask, like, "What's it about? What am I supposed to learn?" Because sometimes, your subconscious mind, which is greater than your conscious mind, God's speaking through it and trying.
Oh, wow!
To,
Thanks, man.
So
I want to quickly say I was talking
Sure.
to a friend earlier about a dream I had not long ago, and it was really random. I used to live in Alaska, worked on a boat for a few years, but in the dream I was on another boat in Alaska. I knew I was in Alaska. It was really bad out there, the weather. And I was working with Barack Obama. We were both deckhands, and he was just a regular dude, but it was Barack Obama. And we were casting huge nets. Here's the symbolic part, and pulling in a lot of fish. Had tons of fish every time we did it. And it was me and him. It just felt like a long dream of me working with Barack Obama as a deckhand and casting nets and getting fish. So I didn't like that I was with him, but I need to find out what all that means. But go ahead.
What side of the boat were you casting out on, KJ? Was he on the other side?
No, we were on the right side. I see it in my face clearly. Yeah, we were on the right side. He is wearing blue overalls, and so was I. He had a beanie hat on, and it was Barack Obama. We were both doing it together, and that's why I felt weird about it. I'm like, okay, I don't think we're on the same team or anything. At least I know we're not,
Right.
but that's got to mean something, but I don't know, man. So I'll have to ask, I'll have to pray and see if it comes.
Yeah, I think you'll get an answer. I mean, it may not be, Barack Obama to a certain extent, but it may be what he kind of represents to you.
Maybe that's good.
And it may be that God's trying to show you that, everything's working together for the good. And there's a reason for everything. You never know.
I love that. See, that's a great attitude. And that's the way I always eventually go to, is like, I didn't want to think, God's telling me that I'm working with the Antichrist. It's not
I didn't think that. I didn't think that at all.
See, and I did.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, but I know that's not what it is. And I love your attitude. I'm the same way, man. I love God. God knows that. And I know that I'm doing the best I can with the gifts he gave me. So I know he's on my team. I'm on his. And, we always go to him first. So I'm rambling. Right. Please continue on with the dream.
No, big time. And so and I've noticed in my dreams, and dreams that I've had, and I'm not like one of those people like the dream told me, but I do pay attention to these things. I think they're there for a reason. We don't give ourselves enough credit. We are a lot more than we've ever given ourselves credit to believe that we are. I mean, if a dog has a child, it's a puppy. If a giraffe has a child, it's a giraffe. If God gives birth to a child, it's we're connected. We're all one with something a lot greater than what we as mortal beings can ever possibly imagine. And this first part of us is not the end. And there's a lot of suffering and a lot of trouble, but it's all there for a reason. So I hope people, if they're going through a hard time, they understand that it's there for a reason, just like working out.
No, that's perfect. I have to answer people in comments a lot about this because they'll come at me really negative or like afraid of things. And I ask them, or they'll say they're a Christian and all this stuff, or, not just be a Christian, they follow in Christ and they have Christ. And I always tell them, and I'll put it in caps, we are conquerors, 5 exclamation points, that's the way to look at it. And in fact, we have the 9 manifestations of the Holy Spirit. You may want to talk about that some. And I think so many people forget that we have these abilities. They don't have the faith. Like feel a little weird about going out and trying to heal people and stuff. But, I mean, there's things I'm strong in and other things I should work in. But what do you think about the manifestations and what do you think?
Well, I think that, everybody has, a gifting and a calling, and, there's one that I want, and it's, the gifts of the Spirit. The main one is obviously love, and it's like what we need to focus more on is that. And if you want to heal somebody, there's the passage where Jesus is he's with his, he's with the disciples, and they said, whose fault was it that he was born blind? Which is a weird question, because how could it be his fault if he was born that way? There's another story for that. But Jesus says it wasn't his fault at all. It was so that when he received his sight, God could be glorified. So in other words, when we finally wash that mud from our eyes, right?
Yeah.
We start to see, and it's not about like, Now, I'm not saying that you can't physically heal people. I have just seen so many people put their faith in that, and they're missing the true blessing of actually being strong in their weakness.
I almost forgot I was talking to Jacob Israel for a second, because you're right. You've seen a lot of these fake faith healers in action.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, and spoken to them and tried to do TV shows on it. And I will say this, I once did a show that I produced, and I played the part of a carnival, like the ringmaster, and all these people were in line. I said, come on, get your healing, get your Rhema word. And I did all that. And it was so offensive that I was put before the entire department and was said, this is not who we represent. But ironically, and I realized, I said, wow, I said, it's interesting what happens when you put the truth forward, because, a lot of these people, you'll find they don't really believe in God. And if they did, they wouldn't act the way they did, and they would treat others differently. They wouldn't, they wouldn't have armor bearers and servants, and they wouldn't, they wouldn't look down on other people, and they wouldn't judge other people. Like, for example, I don't know if you know anything about this, but this is one of the reasons that we started having a little bit of an issue, because I started saying that something was about to be revealed that was going to kind of shake the very network to the core, and it was going to change everything. And I didn't know that what I was saying was something that was already going on. And it turned out that the owner of the network was having a long affair with with his wife's best friend. And it was not right. And
wow.
what really was a bummer about all this was I had seen them let go of people that they thought were having inappropriate relationships. And I had always felt, like I always kind of knew. You always can tell, you have a discernment of sorts that there's something going on, because, people condemn others in the very things that they allow. And that's not a good thing. It's like, you can't condemn people. All you can do is love them. So you want to heal somebody. The best way to heal somebody is to show them love and compassion and hope, and let them know that everything is there for a reason. If I didn't break my neck, I wouldn't have been a writer. If I wasn't sick, I wouldn't have gone into acting. If I wasn't, picked on and bullied, and I wasn't put down, and if I didn't have any of these things happen, I wouldn't be where I am today. Everything in life is working together for our good. If we fall into the lie that I'm never going to get ahead, we believe that lie, you won't get ahead. But if you believe that everything's working together to push you further, to get you to where you need to be, you will be. Now, here's what I'm getting at. I have said for years that by the time I was 45 or so, I'm 45 now, that everybody was going to get to know Jacob Israel. That I had said for a long time my book would become a bestseller. It's not yet, but it will. Everything that I've said about other things I said would happen have happened. I did not know that it was going to start to take off here on YouTube. I didn't know, but I knew that it was going to. And I wrote about it in a essay I wrote called Inspiration Rules years ago. And I talked about it, and because I believe that when you confess a thing, and when you because faith comes by hearing, right? So if you're not, if you have a desire in your heart, KJ, to reach people, and you want to reach 1 million people, and that's the desire of your heart, then you got to say, I'm going to, I am, I will be, and you got to hear it. You got to hear it, because faith comes by hearing, and hearing, is an important thing, because there's a vibration. And that creates everything. Like everything.
I love it. I'm gonna throw a real wild one out there, because I live like that. I like that. But there's one lately I've been throwing out. I was just talking to my family about it. But I'm just saying, what I would like? I would like to be approached eventually by Coast to Coast AM, because it's no knock on George Norrie, but they're calling him George Snorri. And I mean, the show, I used to listen with Art Bell years ago, and I liked George in the beginning, and I don't know, it's just changed so much, and I feel that'd be such a great reach. So I've been putting it out there, like, wouldn't it be cool? I was telling my dad, if I was contacted by Coast to Coast and I could be the new host.
So
that's a big one, a crazy one.
Why don't we just say it right now that you're going to be contacted by Coast to Coast, and it'll happen within a couple of months' time, maybe even less than that. How about we just say that? And then you can just say, hey, go back and check on it, because that's faith in action, right? And it wouldn't be us creating it. The desire's in your heart for a reason. Look, when I commented on your video, my desire was to come onto your show. I didn't know why.
Wow, cool, really? Why.
Yeah, and like the fact that you went, and it was like, it was the weirdest thing.
I felt like I needed to contact you immediately. I don't know why, and there it is.
Right, and here we are. And there's a reason for it. So I have this dream, and like I said, my YouTube channel was not big. It was about 520. I knew exactly it was 520 subscribers because I didn't put a lot of faith into it and a lot of action into it. Everything was about the novel, and everything was about what I wrote. And I used to write poetry on a regular basis, and I was focused more on that. And also I was producing TV on the side too. And so anyway, so what happened was, so I have this weird dream. I reach out to this guy, David, and I say, and he writes me back. He says, what was the dream about? I said, it's about aliens. And he goes, maybe you should contact me. He gives me his number. I get on the phone with him. And I say, yeah, I don't know why you were in the dream, but I don't know if you know anything about this. And then he goes, yes. And I've studied my whole life about it. And he starts telling me all about Nibiru and Zecharia Sitchin and the Anunnaki. And I go, that's really weird. Like, why were you in my dream? And he goes, I don't tell people this because they think you're crazy. So he says I guess he had some kind of he was exposed to it when he was younger, and he just doesn't get into it, and he focuses more on scripture, and he sees that the two are linked. Now I at the time didn't, I still don't, to a certain extent, but I think there's something to it. And I'll explain why. So I get off the phone with him and I go, that's weird. But do you think that I do a video now? You think that God's trying to tell me something, like maybe I'm supposed to do a video on this. That's really coincidental, right? So now I have these 1, 2, 3, now 4 coincidences. I say I'm not going to do it. So I go in the shower, and as I'm showering, I think of my friend Bob, and he's not a good friend of mine. I mean, he's a reader of mine, and he modeled a character. He's a sci-fi writer, and he wrote a sci-fi series called Athlon, which is really cool. And he modeled the lead character after me. The lead character's name is Noah Israel. And he used basically the way I talk and maybe some of my poetry and stuff like that, and kind of put my character in the center of his story. And he had sent me a copy. He asked me about a year and a half ago if he could do it. And then, he finished the book and he sent me the first copy, and I had it signed, and it was in my car. And as I'm showering, he comes to my mind, and I go, oh my goodness, I think his book had something to do with aliens. And I say, all right, Lord, if this has to do with Nibiru and the Anunnaki, and I'm smack dab in the middle of a story that was written like a year and a half ago, I'll do the video. So I call Bob up. This is all true. I actually did the voiceover for his trailer.
Oh, cool.
If you look up it's kind of a goofy little trailer that he put together. And he asked me if I'd do the voiceover. And I used to be called the voice in the Dead Woods. I had a radio show, which was actually pretty cool on Blog Talk. That was popular. I stopped doing it because I didn't have the time. So I call him up and I go, Bob, this is going to sound weird, but what's your book about? I know it's about aliens. He goes, oh, well, there's this planet Nibiru and the Sumerian gods, and they seeded life on a planet. I said, you gotta be kidding me. I said, this makes no sense. I said, you put me, my essence, in a trilogy where I'm like the leader of some resistance against the Anunnaki of all things. And I told him about, my interesting situation with, my colleague at work and this, and then my dream. And do you think I do the video then? Because that would be like, and we're talking one after the other. It's kind of like Jonah, go to Nineveh, tell them I say, and I'm like, no, I got a book coming out. I don't, they didn't like when I started talking about like World War III and like a new world order. How are they going to like me trying to talk about aliens that I don't even believe in? So I didn't do the video, and I was being disobedient, and but the guy kept saying, oh, but I need more, because it just didn't make sense to me. I'm like, I don't get how wasn't even in my radar, KJ. It's not something that I've ever, focused on. So I kind of blow it off, and then, I schedule my vacation. I go on vacation with my wife, and this is where it gets weird, was the first night I'm there, I have a terrible nightmare. And in the nightmare, my son Ethan's in the hospital, and I'm coming out of this hospital. I'm outside, and I see this, huge planetary body. And at that moment in the dream, I go, "Oh Lord, I'm sorry." I said, "I didn't believe it. I'll do the video now. And I'm running around this dream with my iPhone, trying to like catch a video, and meteors are hitting and striking, and it's like this really spooky, scary dream. And it was the worst dream. I've had a lot of bad dreams. My childhood was riddled with them because I had a weird childhood, and it was a terrible nightmare. And the last scene was I was just begging for mercy because I didn't, I was given a chance. And in the dream, for some reason, I felt like if I had just done the video, I could have stopped all this. I know it sounds weird, but that's what happens in a dream. Things don't make sense. And I woke up, because at the last scene, I was like in this fetal position. Everything was blowing up. And I woke up and I said my first words in my mouth, all right already. I'll do the video. So I tell my wife, and I make a plan because I don't want. It's already some of the things that I talk about are peculiar. Not everybody.
I know what you mean, and as you're saying this too, my head's spinning because I keep thinking about all the. We know NASA. Some of it's definitely hoax type stuff.
Oh,
but
definitely.
Then, but there's some of it they really release some interesting things. But they've been putting a lot out about the new planet in the solar system and all that. So go ahead.
Which is interesting, I think. And it all started happening like right after I did this video. But what's going to happen? This is going to blow your mind. So I tell my wife, I go, look, I think I got to do this video. She goes, I go, honey, this is just too much. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to tell everybody like I told you, KJ. I'm just going to tell everybody what happened. I'm not going to say I believe in it, because I don't really know much about it right now. And I'll tell you, things have changed on my my belief in this, just so you know. I've done a lot of research since this day. And
do you think is it wormwood? Is it the same thing or what?
Well, some people are saying that. I think it could be. It could be. I think that there's going to be a bitterness that's going to affect all the waters, and I think that has also to do with what we think and the words that are spoken. But yeah, man, it could be. Who knows? I don't think that there's a planet that's going to crash into us. A lot of people do. I don't believe that's going to happen. This is a supposedly it's a planet that passes out past it's a Neptune or something like that. It's not anything that's going to come and smack into us. A lot of people think
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm really glad you're covering the subject because I did look into a lot of that stuff way back in the beginning for me when I started waking up. And there's some things that Sitchin talked about, Zecharia Sitchin, that has been debunked, but then it's just like anything else. The best lies have, 80% truth, 90% truth, right? So I know there's got to be some kind of truth in what he's saying. And, the whole reptilian thing, one of the new videos I'm thinking of doing is on the lizard man of South Carolina. I want to do a fun one. Yeah, because he's been seen since '88. A lot of police and all these other people have seen him. The thing is that there's the underground caverns of LA that have all the reptilian drawings and stuff. Now, I don't think it's reptilian. Now that's where I think that it's a bit of a where the lie comes in, because I do think it has to do with the fallen ones and things like this. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's there's just so much. At this point, after I did this video, I was like, okay, now I'll just take anything I feel like.
I bet you got hammered too, huh?
Oh no, well, see, this is where it gets weird. Is I had that terrible dream, and I make this plan. We're going to go to this place called Gano Bananas or something like that. It's a really nice place, and I was going to go paddle boarding, and I was just going to basically let the kids, because I have four awesome children. I don't like saying kids, 4 children and my wife, and I was going to let them kind of go off, and I was going to kind of sit back and just quickly break out my phone and just do the video and just try to be obedient, right? Because after all that, look, you should probably tell people. And so what happened was we're at the place, and I run to the restroom, and I'm in the restroom, like my son was like complaining. He was like really whining about his belly, and I thought, he hadn't gone to the bathroom the last couple of days. And then I'm like, as I'm thinking this, I start walking and go, oh my goodness, I hope he's not blocked up, because I have Crohn's disease. So anything that has to do with the belly, I worry about. And I go, good grief, if he's, if there's a blockage, I go, oh no. And then I'm thinking in my head, he's not thrown up yet. He doesn't need to go to the hospital. And as I'm walking around the corner, I see my son throwing up. Now that's interesting that I just happen to be worried about something, and then it's happening at the exact same moment. I said, oh my goodness. So, well, he hasn't gone to the bathroom. We just knew that it was, he was gonna probably need like Miralax or something. And but at this point now he's throwing up. Like, what if it's a blockage? Let's get him to the hospital. So we start driving to the hospital. And as we're on our way to the hospital, then I remember my dream. I'm going, oh my goodness, in the dream, Ethan's in the hospital. I go, okay, because I was about to do the video. Now I couldn't do the video. And in the dream, I couldn't do the video. I was trying to do the video. I start having a little bit of a panic attack, right? Not really, but I'm driving. And as I'm pulling up my hand to God, this hospital looked just like the hospital from my dream. And weirder still, a huge storm front was rolling in. It was like a scene out of a movie. And I said, oh, you got to be kidding me. So I tell Danielle, I said, honey, there's no parking. I'm going to drop you guys off at the front. I'm going to just park, and I'm going to do a video on the way in. You get, because you better be safe than sorry. So I know I sound like a lunatic. So I parked the car, and it was like I had to park it far, far away. And I break out my phone, and I just basically tell everybody just like I told you. And here's where it gets weird. As I upload the video, and the next video I do on this subject, because now that it's out there, I said, no big deal. It goes viral. And it makes like all the mainstream news. And I was in like all the big papers, like,
wow,
the Fox News. Yeah.
Were they being supportive, or were they mocking?
Well, no, very supportive. And the blogger Jacob Israel is talking, blah, blah, blah. And I actually took the video down that went viral because I just felt weird about it. It was up to like something like 700,000 views.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big one, man. Yeah. So that's interesting, but it felt a little overwhelming to you then?
Well, what was weird, like I said, I was at 520 subscribers. And as of, when did I do that video? My goodness, it was, I think it was like, now I'm at 61,000. I mean, we're only talking in 6 months. So
wow, that's good.
You can't tell me that I wasn't meant to do that video for whatever reason. And I'm 45, and like everything's starting to come together. So when you asked me earlier, I know it took me a long time to get it out, but supernatural. There are things that happen that we don't understand, and there are times when we're urged to do things that we don't want to do, and we should just act on things so long as it doesn't hurt another human being, and it is basically rooted in love. We shouldn't worry about. We can't worry about what other people think.
I'm curious too, man. Is that okay? Then, and this is a free, this is a safe space, but I'm curious. Maybe you can school us on this, because I am still open to the possibility of a different kind of a race possibly being here. I mean, what do you think about the whole reptilian thing? What do you have any views?
I honestly, I haven't. I don't think that it can't. I think it's a possibility. I don't think. Let's put it this way. I'm not worried about reptilians.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like your dream was more about the planet and the Bureau and everything else.
But I do, I don't know. I think that there's something, like I really do feel like there's something. Now what's weird about all this is the more I looked into it, and what was really bizarre is, they've now said that there is a Planet X, and that it is on an elliptical orbit, and that it has, and because it's perturbed everything else. So it's just bizarre, because, once I did this video and I started talking about it, all of a sudden, they start finding these dwarf planets, and they start saying, now it's becoming like real news, it's supposed to be.
That is just crazy, man. Well, I want to put this out there as well. Are you doing okay still? Because I'm going to go a little bit longer. Are you okay?
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Good, okay.
I'm loving this. Yeah,
now I had several people. I want to address the audience quickly that a lot of people had written before my accident and wanted to come on, and I've tried to contact some of them, and I'll get back to the rest of you as well over this next week for the next show. One of the people, an old friend of mine, Ty Jin, on here had got in contact, also wanted to come on and chat about something. It's a subject you and I can both tackle together if you're interested. So I put the link on her Skype if she's listening. She can come in when she likes. And then you and I are still going to continue no matter what. But because I've got other things I want to ask you. What would you tell the audience is the main message that you want to anyone to take away from all of your work? What's the big message you want everyone to have?
It's not about me. That's for one. And to seek. To like that one line, teach me the truth. I want people to ask, even if you don't believe. What's the harm in asking? That's the thing is that, I don't know how anybody can look at everything. See, I did a video on simulation theory. I'm fascinated by this, by the way. And Richard Dawkins, the guy who says, there's no such thing as intelligent life, and yet he believes that intelligent life seeded life. He goes, that's a possibility. But now he says that, because Elon Musk and all those big brains, say that there's, it's a billion times more likely that we're in some kind of a simulation, which doesn't.
That was interesting.
Which doesn't discount God at all. By the way, it doesn't. If anything, I think that if this is some sort of simulation, which is, I tell you, it's interesting. Like the more you look into it, and the findings of the National Medal Science winner, and he was Obama's scientific advisor. How he said, he found when dealing with the equations of quantum physics that he found computer code at the very fabric of everything. And
that is interesting.
And how and when you look at like even Nick Bostrom's philosophical essay that he wrote, I think it was at Oxford, and I read this thing, and it makes a lot of sense. When you start to look into this, it's fascinating, man. So I think that people need to seek more. So even Dawkins said, "Oh yes, well, intelligent design creates, but yet it can't be possible. It can't possibly be, it has to be an evolved human," which I think that's limiting. And so I really believe that even if you don't have faith in anything, you have to admit that you don't know it all. And why not just say, if there's more, teach me the truth, no matter what the cost. And I say that because a lot of people aren't willing to say that because, they may have to give up what they believe. And that's
true.
And that's a big deal, man. The axe laying to the, to the roots of things. That's a scary day. The day of the Lord is a scary day. It's darkness and thunders and lightnings. And, it's a spooky day when the truth hits you because you realize, like Paul, when he was knocked to the ground and you realize you know nothing. You become blind the instant the truth is revealed to you. You know nothing at all. And you got to be led like a little child and taught again,
I wanted to throw this at you too for a different subject. And our friend joined us. I muted. Oh, she's got it. I muted her for a second because the volume was up in the background, but she's going to unmute it. And I think she can unmute it. I'm not sure how that works. But if not, if you could maybe leave and come back. Again, sorry, guys, I'm not the most professional. We go by the seat of our pants here. But you mentioned Elon Musk, and, because that's the promise that the world's giving the people. We have hope in Christ. We have hope in heaven. But they're giving the world hope through transhumanism and augmented reality. Have you covered that at all?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And that's really kind of, that's the direction that everybody's going, because that's, once again, it's man trying to become God. And not realizing that, this temporal, anything that's temporal, everything that you're looking at is going to be gone. But, that spirit that we are, that spirit within us, that goes on and on and on. And so putting faith in mankind, putting faith in technology, look, I think there's a reason for it, but you have to be a bigger picture guy. You can't limit yourself.
Yeah, there have been some really interesting articles coming out lately about them wanting to transfer us into different bodies,
right.
Your consciousness. There's a TV series on called Humans I'm going to check out sometime. Somebody sent a link to me.
Great series. All about that.
Yeah, it's a series on AMC.
I love the video you did on Westworld, by the way. I love Westworld.
Oh, thanks. I did too. What a fascinating show. And beyond all the symbolism and the obvious predictive or social engineering and predictive programming, brilliant show,
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Hey, so our friend joined us. Jen, can you hear us? Are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Jen, we can hear you. Okay. So this is Jacob. Jacob, Jen.
Hello.
Hi, Jacob.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, go ahead, Jen. How are you? You okay?
Yeah,
Good?
I'm okay. I had headsets on. I thought I'd use headsets this time.
Oh, no, that's cool. Then no problem at all. And like I said, I tried to contact some of the people. Some of them couldn't do it. Others couldn't get back in touch, but I was able to get in touch with Jen. So would you first off, nice to see you. You've been a friend of mine for a long time here. So thanks again for that. Nice seeing you again. So what's on your mind? What do you want to discuss? Me and Jacob are going to tackle it together and we'll all discuss.
Oh, hi, Jacob.
Hi.
I wanted to say, did you name the Israel because God changed Jacob's name to Israel?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I didn't hear you say that, but I thought that because
absolutely, yeah. It's like when people ask me all the time, when they say, "Oh, you Zionist Jew, we're going to get you," and I say, I'm Italian, I'm Irish. The name is God-given. I just, for a long time since I was young, I've always believed it. I was, like I said, I was born on June 11th too, which I always found fascinating because, the duality and the twins and just my life, it just seems like that's who I was meant to be, and also the story. It's just a beautiful story of a changed life, you know.
Yeah, and the fact that the United States actually represents Jacob, and Esau actually represents the Russia.
Is that interesting? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's
that is
very
interesting.
Esau is the bear, and
Right.
Russia or Esau actually means red and hairy.
Reddish, yeah. Ready.
Rush. And if
Mhm.
you look in the Hebrew text manuscripts, it comes out to Russ, Rus. So
Wow.
when they talk about in Revelations that Russia becomes the bear, and then there's this war, and the four angels of heaven are released. You have the leopard, you have Judah, the lion, which represents Judah, and you have the bear, and that's the end times work. So Russia's definitely involved.
Mm.
You know, he's coming back for his inheritance,
Right.
orange.
That's interesting.
That is
That reminds me of, did you ever see that? It was I don't know if they call it a murder of birds. I'm not sure what it's called, but all those blackbirds that were flying and someone
Murder of
filmed.
Crows. Yeah,
Murder
Murder
of
of Crows.
Crows.
Right.
Thank
Yeah.
you. And they filmed, some people was filming from a bus, and they filmed a bunch of those birds flocking around, and they formed the face of Putin perfectly. Did you guys ever see that?
Oh, I gotta see that.
It's real, man. It's a real one. You got to look it up. It's very interesting. And there's tons of programming with Russia, of course, all the connections with Trump, so they say, which most of us, most of it's garbage, I believe. And
Mhm.
The Americans TV show is another one about Russia infiltrating America. But I'm rambling, and this is what I do. So go ahead, Jim.
No, I've
What's
been
up?
listening to Jacob and his past and his testimony, and very interesting. And so I didn't know. I didn't know if you knew the correlation. And then you were talking about the twins and like the twin towers, and Cain and Abel were twins.
Yes.
Were fraternal twins.
Yep.
And then we know about what happened in the garden, and everybody thinks it's an apple.
Mhm.
Everybody thinks it's an apple.
Yeah. It's everything that fruit.
Correlates the Apple or the Mac. I mean, I'm on an iPhone myself, but there's a little bite out of the apple, and
Yeah.
kind of funny. We just correlate all that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it reminds me too with I believe Jonathan Kleck pointed this out, how the Twin Towers actually looked like DNA markers, and then the New World Order Tower, the One World Tower, Barack put Psalm 23 on there, or he read Psalm 23, which was the 23 chromosomes. So another symbolic thing there.
Yes. So yeah, that truth right there in the garden goes all the way back, because Satan has been was trying from the beginning to stop Jesus from coming through the correct bloodline. So when we see on TV now all this DNA stuff, Ancestry.com, or get your DNA checked, and I see it all the time, and you think, why do they want our DNA? Why do they want our blood? Well, because literally the Luciferians, they want to know who's got the evil blood. I mean, that was their whole goal, is to mix the blood. And Jesus came through umbilical cord. If you look at the genealogy, all the way from Eve through Abraham, and then Noah, then Abraham, and then David, and then Mary's through David, umbilical cord through umbilical cord, because Christ came through a clean, pure bloodline. And then you have the Kenites, and then Cain got sent off to the land of Nod, and then that was the bad seed. That's the bad genes, and they went, and they've been alive and well for thousands of years, and these guys have had all this knowledge and have hoarded it from us. And so, I mean, wow, it's like technically we kind of are. I mean, I kind of see it for myself with my own testimony and my background, being half Thai, and my family being all Muslim. They're all Muslim in Thailand. My genealogy comes from Turkey. So I probably have the Turkish Khazar blood, which are the Kenites and all that,
Great. Well, I can see the comments now. KJ had a Jew and a Muslim on his show.
I'm not Jewish.
I know you're not. They're gonna do. You know how these trolls are. Just because the last name's Israel, it's a Joe. I tell you.
Yes, exactly. So So I mean, like, it's sin. We all have the ability to do evil. I mean, or be bad. You got the little good guy on the shoulder, on the right shoulder, and the bad guy on the left. The little devil's like,
Right.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's hard to walk the straight and narrow line. But then you said something about KG. You were talking about the Saturn and the ring of Saturn. I thought about one of the Lord of the Rings and all that. Totally true. Saturn is Satan's planet for sure. You see the hexagon there forming, or has been there, like looks the eye of Saturn. The child sex ring. I've noticed the child sex ring is actually going around the Earth.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah.
I kind of correlated that because he had that Hampstead twins, or the twins up in. Have you guys heard about that? The Hampstead.
No.
Oh yeah. Oh, you haven't heard about Jacob? You should look up that. It's fascinating. Two children, heartbreaking as well, but they're telling about satanic ritual abuse that they were exposed to.
Oh yeah, and the evil that their father, and it goes all the way. I mean, they went to court, and the mom lost because they came home telling the mom all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's just heartbreaking, and all this. You can't forget Pizzagate. You can't forget all this that's coming out.
It's all being exposed. Yeah, we're seeing. In fact, pedophile rings are getting knocked out over this last month or so. There've been several that have been exposed. So it's interesting. I'm loving that a lot of people aren't going to let Pizzagate die. I just personally, I always switch subjects around, but. You got to keep it alive. The stuff with Marina Abramovic, of course, and look who did the Super Bowl halftime show again. Lady Gaga. So these are wicked, satanic rings of people, but they're all being exposed. That's the good news.
Yeah, I mean, and it's what's hidden. There's a Bible verse will end up exposing itself, and we're definitely living in the times of everything's coming out. The truth is coming out. And God's going to let everybody hear the word. Everybody's going to hear the word before he's coming. He's going to give everybody a chance. But I was thinking about that child sex, because it's been in Thailand forever, ever.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I bet it's rampant there, right?
Yeah. When I was little, my first, I was there when I was a little baby, but when I went there, I was 12 years old when my mom took me, and I had culture shock. I was blown away because we went for 3 months, my whole summer, summer vacation, and it was sad, and my mom, they would cut little kids' arms and put them on the bridge. And then I was walking one time, and I was getting my money out, my Thai baht, and my mom's like, no. And I'm like, why? No, I gotta give some money, because they put them on there with the grandma, and they took the eyes out of grandma's face, her head, and then kid there, like, oh, we're poor. But I didn't know, I was 12. I didn't know that they had pimps, or, what do you call those? They had people bringing them in the van. So my mom was mad. She goes, don't give them any money, because you're feeding into, the Thai people knew you feed into it, because, they come back and pick them up at night, and then take them to wherever.
Wow, well, I want to throw this out. Sorry, real quick, but it reminds me that I know there's a lot of transsexual escort prostitutes out there as well. The Baphomet, I always see that as the Baphomet every time, the transvestite thing. But there's a lot of that energy there as well. Why do you think there's so much? What's the evil energy there? What do you think's happening?
Well, gosh, there's so much. I mean, I was just there for 3 weeks. I hadn't been there for 14 years, and I went back, and it's horrible. I love it. I still love, the country and everything. But I told my mom, I'm just like, it's really sad. It's just because of what they worship. It's predominantly a Buddhist nation, and their king just died, ironically, right before the election, right before our election. He was the longest reigning king. I think he reigned for 68 years or 70 years or something. He was only 18 when he took. But I think he was probably dead before. Don't say that to Thai people; they get mad. You can't say.
Yeah, conspiracy theorist.
Well, you can't talk about the king of Thailand, and now they have his son took over, and he is just the worst. I mean, he looks like, just Google it, and you'll see him. He comes in to England or something. He's got like these shorts on, and he's tatted out, which I don't. I'm not saying anything about tattoos, but he's kind of they make the Thai people look bad. He's making the Thai people look bad because they're very modest, and you're supposed to be like regal. And so he's not good. But I guess it's not a monarchy anymore. It's more, they have a prime minister and stuff, but it's corruption. They've had 7 coups in the last decade, they can't keep anybody there and hold anybody high in office. But I think it's probably that energy. Like, there is a satanic, sex is a huge deal. Lots of prostitution. Yes, lots of transsexuals. They've been going They've been doing that for years. I went out there with my first husband when I was married, when I was young. We went out for our honeymoon, and we went out to one of those, in Phuket, and she was putting ping pongs up there. And then later I found out that she was a transsexual, and she was mad because she was like dancing and she was opening up her legs and she was snapping her legs closed. And my husband at the time was like, what is wrong with her? She was like mad. She was jealous because I was sitting next to my husband. And it was, yeah. And it was, but my mom was there when the tsunami hit. And when the tsunami hit, I knew. I'm like, God, we lost a nanosecond. We lost a nanosecond in time. When the tsunami hit, I think it was 2012, Indonesia, and it washed away. I think it was just so disgusting to God. He just laid down his little pinky finger, probably.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah,
that's an interesting way to see it for sure.
Yeah, because after a while, you can't look. It's so disgusting. Little kids. There's lots of child sex trafficking. Lots of the, I want to say, but it is a lot of maybe I won't say because it's all kinds of men who are sick that go down there seeking, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds.
Oh God.
Yeah, that's just
just so bad. And I've known since I was young. And so when all this is all coming out, my mom and I were talking about the other day, she goes, see, Thailand not the only one. Thailand not the only one that corruption. We have corruption here in America too. And I'm like, yeah, you guys have the child sex trafficking too. I'm like, yeah, we're probably funding it, over there, with the evil. But so yeah, because there's ways for them to shut that stuff down. They've shut some down, but not enough, and they sell them. They sell the children too, and these women that are poor need money. But yeah, we lost a nanosecond, and it made me think, what's a nanosecond to God? Well, 1 year to God is 1,000 years to us. So 7,000 years is only 7 days.
Yeah.
So if you think of a nanosecond, I was trying to think about that. Like why a second,
No, that makes sense.
It might have been the 3 when God shortened the time in the end in Revelations of 3.5 years. He shortened the time from 7 years to 3.5 years. That might have been the shortening. I don't know.
Maybe. Well, let me put this out, because I know in the email exchange you'd mentioned a subject you wanted to talk about with. It's kind of what Jacob and I have been talking about for a while, but the difference perhaps between people who are following Christ and then the religious. Is that kind of something that you were talking about? Yeah.
So, I've been watching. I've been listening to you for a long time, KJ. A few years now, and I've been, awake. I've known about the New World Order since right after 9/11. I was saved. My little girl, actually, a little 7-year-old girl, was in the back seat. So it's like, told me, it wasn't an apple. It was sex, and I'm like, Aurora, what are you talking about? I'm driving with my little 2-year-old. So I've known about the New World Order because when I found out who told her that, I had a long discussion with this woman, and that's when I was saved, because she had me open the Bible, and she, showed me certain things in the Bible, and I read it myself and was able to. I was like blown away. I knew. I was like, Jesus is real. Jesus is real. And so she told me about the New World Order. I used to go and sit with her and do Bible study. She doesn't elder me now. She's like 90 or something. Still, I still call her up, and she mentors me and tells me what's going on. If I have problems, with certain things. She told me the supermoon, and I had looked that up right after the election. That meant victory. That was another thing I want to tell you guys. So we can celebrate a little bit. We have to celebrate what's going on and be happy, like you say, like liberal tears and stuff. But the thing that I'm seeing that it's really heartbreaking to me, because we're Christians and we all love the Lord, and we all want to bring the Holy Spirit into our lives, and as much as we can live clean and pure in the best way He can. He knows it's so hard for us. We're not perfect. There was only one person that was ever so perfect. And so, we all fall short. But what saddens me is this truther movement, which I love. I've been a conspiracy theorist since I was like 15. me and my best friend used to smoke pot and sitting on the roof in our backyard, and we'd be sitting there talking about aliens and conspiracies and the government and JFK. And like I knew even before I was saved, I was a conspiracy theorist, and I always thought something was always funny. It was always the government had some evil plot, trust no man, So it's been in my life, like I've always felt like I've questioned everything and critically thought. And so being a Christian, it's like we're almost like a subset, right? You have the mainstream Christians that go to church, they go to the Saddleback Church, they Joel Osteen. And then you have, even the Israel Jews, and then, we even have the Zionists, and you have all these separate, you have Muslims, like I can see that because I know from my family. You have all these, different religions, and then you have denominations within them. The Protestants were the protesters, the Seventh-day Advents, and then you look at even the Church of Latter-day Saints. I mean, the Church of Latter-day Saints has some information in there, they don't celebrate birthdays. There's some truth to them. I mean, not, so much the Mormons, in my opinion, but as we're separating ourselves with the separation of wheat and tares, and it's starting to bother me because I'm almost seeing our Christian truther movements, we're separating ourselves, and I've been attacked. I've been told that, I don't know what I'm talking about, or just because I post things on Facebook about Trump, you don't know someone's heart. And the reason why I do post things to that certain movement that he's doing, not because I'm worshiping the guy, it's because I can see God's plan. And how are we who know things deeper, Jacob, you know things, KJ knows things, we're given the gift of seeing things differently than these mainstream Christians. We're blessed immensely that we have eyes to see and ears to hear, and even the thought in our mind planted that whatever it was that God thought, him, her, you guys, we have to bring these people out of Babylon, new mystery Babylon. But how do we do that? We can't do that because it's a jump.
Well, we talked a little bit about this earlier, Jacob and I, and we definitely expound on it. And I think he and I are on the same page in a lot of respects. Like for me, I totally see what you're saying. I'm at the right there at the forefront with a lot of other people with it. I'm seeing a lot of it. But it used to bother me a little more. But now I'm at the point where I don't know. I don't want to say I'm callous or anything, but I realize now that that's just the time we're in. That's what's going to happen, and it's meant to happen. Everyone's going to be turning against each other. This is just what it is, and there's going to be a remnant. There's going to be those of us that I believe, I'm putting myself in there, that are truly trying to follow the real ways of Christ, and we're good with all this knowledge. We want to learn more because we know it's freeing us, and that's it. So I don't worry about all these other, and truthfully, I think that half the so-called Christian trolls on YouTube, because I get some vicious ones, I don't even think they're real Christians. It's just some jerk made a channel to be a jerk. Go ahead, Jacob.
No, I agree with you. I mean, you judge a tree by its fruit, so you don't have to. They're not.
Well, no, it's not even that, and not to cut you off, but it's people that I have made friends with through KJ's show or in other ways because I've been on the show before, and it's like all of a sudden I am being compartmentalized.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry that's happening to you. I know I've seen that with the Trump issue. I've seen that happen to a lot of people.
Yes, because they think, Trump is a Jesuit, or Trump does the 666 hands, or he does a pyramid. When are we going to? Sometimes we need to get out of the rabbit hole and take a breath of fresh air and kind of come back to not that, because our reality is we know a lot deeper truth realities, but sometimes we can go down rabbit holes and then everything's a conspiracy. And then once you start saying that, it's like, then you're basically saying God is not in control. If everything's a conspiracy, if Trump is bad and evil, and yes, his brother or son-in-law is a Jew and he's a Jesuit and all this stuff, the trumpet means action. Trump means action. Trumpet, Trump Pence.
Yeah.
God is using this man, and there's nothing wrong with, we pray for our enemies. There's nothing wrong for us with praying for Trump. I'm not a bad person because I'm a Trump supporter. I feel in my mind as a Christian truther that I need to show some of these left, the people on the left, because you can see them. They're going. There are people coming over. There, we don't see it, but I know God has to use us. Or like the people say, I don't vote. I didn't vote. I don't vote because voting's all rigged. Well, voting's rigged. Well, I did. Because you know what? Voting was a gift. It's in the blood of our nation and how our founding fathers. Now we can get into the whole Washington versus.
I'm right there. Everything you're saying, I'm right there with you, because this is stuff we've discussed here. Maybe not me, you and I, but I have on the show before. There's a lot of people that are in danger, just like you're saying. Like they'll see a video on Trump doing the 666, and immediately he's evil. Everything's bad. And, I refuse to live in that reality, as Jacob and I discussed, and this is how I've talked in the past about Trump, that in my life, I take everything moment by moment. I am fully KJ Osborne right here, right now with you guys. Like, I'm not worried about my past. I'm not freaking out about the future. We're hanging out. And every day that goes by, I just like a lot of you, I look at news and I research a little Trump and see what he's doing or whatever. But I'm going to keep watching, and and every time he does something good, I'm going to be happy for that. That's a good thing. He stopped the TPP. That's a good thing. Right. I'm going to do it like that, and like when and if he really takes a turn, then we're going to discuss it. We're going to bust it. We're going to expose it, but until, I don't know. I've seen the symbols. I saw him signing that one thing in front of a pentagram. And I see all this stuff, I get it. I understand, but it's the beast system as it is. Right. And like I said, regardless of and he's got a fallen angel statue in his apartment. I get all this, but like we talked earlier, man, God can use whoever the heck he wants to do whatever he wants. So I'm not so worried about Trump and the 666 building and all this. It is interesting stuff to me. But to me, it's like, I'm not that surprised. This is a beast system, folks. It hadn't changed. He's working within it. Hopefully God really is guiding his hand and we see great things, or maybe he's working for the Antichrist and whatever. We'll see, go ahead. But unfortunately, people can't be reasonable these days, Jen. That's the problem. A lot of people don't want to be reasonable and, think like along these lines. They like division. Look where people's feet rush, the feet rushing to wickedness and all this, look what they're rushing to. I want to be a uniter, not a divider, Go ahead.
But KJ, with great power comes great responsibility, and you've done very well with that, with your YouTube channel, and you have to be careful with the seeds you plant. If we are supposed to be good seeds, and we're supposed to be planting good seeds, and that is why I am okay with planting good seeds or saying something great that Trump did and seeing at the left. Yeah, I like liberal tears and I see what they're doing, and I know it's a separation of wheat and the tares, but there's no other way we can bring those guys over to the good side or the good team without, different levels of good. All the ones, I still am friends with all the people that go to church at Saddleback Church. I left them a while ago, and they're fine. I'll say stuff about, Rick Warren all day long. He's one that I've looked in the eyes, straight in the eyes, shook his hand and thought that he was a real pastor, and he's not. He sits on the Council of Foreign Relations.
Yeah, and he's working with the Pope for the One World Order and all that. And I will say, you definitely hit on one thing. Like, I'll just put this out there, but on a hot summer day, the most refreshing drink I can have is a tall glass of liberal tears. Don't get me wrong. It really hits the spot. I was a Republican for years. I was in the military. And I'll always lean right. But I see both sides are crooked. But anyway, so. But yeah, it's tough. I think it's also the time we have to exercise. I'm sure you are as well, is just patience with people, understanding, letting the people do what they do and have their opinions. We can always block them on Facebook, luckily, is another thing.
Oh, yeah.
But we're gonna see this division, and it's just gonna increase. Go ahead.
Right. But it's not like, I'm not an all or nothing type person, I feel. So when somebody or deletes me and later on I found out, or, I'm not, or to attack and say, you're doing this, you're doing that, or trying to, I read my Bible so much, and especially with people we don't know, we have to be careful online, on Facebook, some of the words that we're living in Babel, right? Babel means confusion, but God is, to me, so simple. He's so simple. God is not the author of confusion. You know, I think that's 1 Corinthians 14:22. He's just not. He's not. He's a very simple, everything simple. Man has made him complicated. So I think it's a lot with this us and our truther movement, and especially Christian truthers, that it's hard to think, wow, is Trump is he good? Is he really good? Is he really? Yeah, victory. Hello. You know, we know the 777s. When I was on here before, you know, the supermoon right after the election, the supermoon meant victory. You can look it up and dig it. It's okay. We can. I think Christian. It's not meaning let down our guard, but we can celebrate. We can have a little bit, like, look at what's happened. People are saying Merry Christmas this last Christmas. I mean, we weren't actually scared to say it. Like, I was going up to everybody saying Merry Christmas, but before I actually did feel like a little bit kind of, well, you know, I said it to one person, I think a few years back, and she goes, Happy Hanukkah, I'm Jewish or something. And it was just mad about it. I'm like, oh, sorry. So then I started saying Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, and saying it all. But I did kind of feel like I couldn't say Merry Christmas. So that changed, right? We felt that there's like that spiritual wave coming over all of us that I think is just so, it's God.
I hope so, and I like that too, and I hope it continues. But it's interesting too, because every time I think of this, of a new president, I just say to myself, the pendulum swings, you know, and so it swings. And because I have liberal and conservative friends and family, and right now the liberals think it's the end of the world. They think it's hell on earth, you know, and so it's always going to be that pendulum swinging. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the truth is somewhere in the middle, right? But yeah, so I'm with you on that. I see that as well. You're a light. You know, you're a great person, and we've been friends a long time. And you know, I love that. You know, just continue. You know, just continue being you. Post what you want, because someone out there is listening, and you may even change their minds and have them, you know, relax a little bit here. You know, take a breath and take a win for a win. I mean, it was a win, him beating Hillary, no matter if it was rigged or what or whatever. That's a win. Okay, in my opinion, a huge win. And I took it. I was happy about it. You know, that's good. And I'm just going to continue being that way. Like I said, as long as he's, you know, I'm not here just to see the liberals suffer either. I mean, like I said, I see both sides of a lot of those issues. But, you know, keep rocking Trump. Do good stuff. Don't be bad. Don't do evil. You know, don't do the devil's work. And, you know, more and more people will give him a break. But like I said, the second it goes wrong, then we're all going to get on him, you know,
Right.
if it does.
Yeah, and you know, and we say everything that he's doing, you know, with even, you know, meeting with the Japanese Prime Minister. I don't know if you guys listened to the Senator Tim Scott, with South Carolina. He spoke the other day. Oh my word, was it amazing? It was. I mean, he's a Christian black man, and was talking about his father. If you haven't, anybody in the chat, if they haven't listened to Senator Tim Scott, he read his Twitter, what people were tweeting on him, called him an Uncle Tom and all this stuff. I mean, his speech, I mean, I was in tears. Because he's talking about how slavery, race, really in racist and what a racist is. And he was actually telling the truth about everything that Jeff Sessions did in Alabama with the KKK. And I was almost in tears because, you know, all this stuff with Jeff Sessions, and there was lots of truthers or Christian, you know, conspiracy theorists like Jeff Sessions, he's a this and he's a that. And I'm like, I don't really know. I might have gone down that rabbit hole to research this guy yet.
See, it's such a trap. I mean, that's, again, Jacob and I mentioned we're both the same with that. Like, I really don't follow politics much, and I can't, because right now, like, my blood pressure's going up hearing this. It's not that's not a knock on you, you know, Jen. It's just that's what that stuff does to me, because I see it too. I mean, we know everything's controlled by liberal media, and you know, most of it's not the liberals from the 60s, unfortunately. It's real nasty fascist. And we know that, you know what I mean? It's the was it cognitive dissonance? Is that the term I'm looking for? But yeah, you know, and and I start, you know, hearing this, and I start thinking of those sons, and I bet every media outlet you know what I mean?
No, but no, his I didn't know who this. Well, I actually have an old high school friend on my Facebook. His name is Tim Scott. So when they were saying Senator Tim Scott, and I guess he just had this speech, I thought I'll just listen to this guy. He's a senator, black man, you know, very studious. And And he started speaking, and he was just speaking so eloquently about life and how where he came. He was a single. His mom was a single mom, and just back in the Charlestons. If you were Charlestons, he's kind of going through some history stuff, and I love history, right? We love history. And when he spoke, and he just was talking about being a Christian, and I go, oh my gosh, this guy. I mean, I was almost in tears just to listen to and he goes, we were, by God, I've been giving a gift to be standing here at this moment in, serving the people. And that's what gets me, when you hear people speak and you wonder if it's getting to you to the bones.
Well, I can only hope they're being honest. When I hear that, I can only hope they're being honest. And that's this. Go ahead, Jacob. You want to jump in?
Well, it's I see how divided everybody is and how angry everyone has become towards the other side. The liberals against the alt right, the alt left, and I mean, even my wife and her friend. Varying beliefs. My wife's a Trump supporter, and she was a Hillary supporter, and she made a comment that really hurt her. And I just have no respect for anyone that could possibly support Trump. And my wife, she's very wise, and she had said, people are entitled to their opinion. You can't dislike another human being because they see things a little different than you. And I feel like we have been conditioned and brainwashed to be so angry to the point where they become a joke. We're a joke if you're on one side, and they're the joke if they're on the other side. It's like if you're a Trump supporter, you're a joke to the liberals, and if you're if you're a Republican, the liberals are a joke to you, and it's I feel like it's all a big distraction. And what I'm worried about, because the new thing that we hear now is you hear Iran, and it's all about Iran right now. And the deal that was given to Iran, a lot of people don't understand this. They didn't break the deal. They're allowed to test missiles. They weren't allowed to test a nuclear missile. And it's almost like the story is being told right now, like we gave Iran this great deal. Now, listen, I am not for Iran. Please don't hear what I'm, it's just that it's on that Wesley Clark list. If you've ever heard of it, of the nations that we're going to invade in a small, if you haven't, you should, YouTube.
Can you remind us of that one, Jacob? That's a good one.
There's 7 nations that were going to be overthrown, and every single one has been except for Iran. And they're next on the list. And I got to tell you, so if we end up in a war with Iran, then there you have it. And then that this is all part of the bigger plan, and that this has all been because I got to tell you something. Like I said, I'm hoping it's not, but what a clever story. And I was really disappointed in Trump when, the very first thing he does when he was elected is we owe a debt of gratitude to Hillary. I mean, where did that come from? It was almost like, I'm like, please don't tell me we're all being played. Because I'll tell you, I bought into it, hook, line, and sinker, if we are. So I'm keeping, but then when he did TPP and another couple of things that he's done. Oh, by the way, with the 666, you see, I just caught myself doing it.
666 guys. Yeah.
It happens. I'm playing with the halls because my throat hurts. So I'm not into that stuff. But so if it happens, then you look, we are, because, with Obama, it was, everybody was, we want change. And then what do they gave us that? And now it's almost like, this is great change, right? Mm-hmm. But is it, if these people are so powerful and so in control, you almost wonder. They were front row at his wedding, just 9 years ago. And I don't get it. It's like, is this all a big scam? I don't know. I hope it isn't. I know I produced Trump. We did he's good friends with Vince. And so I, on 2 occasions, bumped into him, and he's a very nice man, and so I of course, I'm hoping for the best. So I guess just keep your eye on Iran. Keep your eye also on what's going to happen. We'll see
Korea
what's.
just tested a missile. I wonder if anybody said it in the chat, but Korea just tonight when you were talking.
Yeah, they're crazy over there.
They are crazy. And
why haven't we started with them? That's the big question. Is like, they're the biggest in your face, and why Iran? By the way, Iran hates us more than anything.
Oh, they really do.
Oh my gosh!
But what do you know about them thinking that Obama was their Mahdi? Do you know anything about that?
I've heard some things about that. Yeah, I don't know enough to talk about. I have almost like he's there for them, and he's there. He's gonna kind of like he's actually incognito. And,
yeah, he just gave him like a lot of money not long ago too.
Lot.
So
but see, now hang on a second. Now let's take that a step further, because here, we're being good. We gave him an opportunity. Look, they messed everything up. We gave them all this money. We did all this stuff, and look what they're doing. We got to go in there. Now, if that happens, then we know, but I don't know. I'm hoping it doesn't happen. I'm hoping.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. And I want to ask y'all this too. What about Damascus being in ruins? I know that's a big.
Oh my goodness, right? And it's the first time ever. Yeah,
that's prophecy right there.
Yeah, we're in trouble.
Yeah, it's crazy how close it is. And now I want to jump to another kind of wild one. Just something I thought about when you guys were talking about Korea. But you probably saw the movie with Seth Rogen or whatever and James Franco. Okay, so they go over there and they're celebrities. They're going to kill Kim Jong. That's the whole idea. But it's weird because, and this is how duality world works, I guess. But as that's happening, Dennis Rodman turns out is going out and actually meeting him in real life.
So weird.
Isn't that crazy? And I've always thought Rodman's under some form of MK Ultra, so who knows what's going on with that?
So bizarre.
Right. Yeah, and that there's a term that when I looked up that the Truther movement is it called Hegelian dialect? What is it?
Hegelian dialectic.
Yeah, and so so God uses symbology to talk to Christians. We know we get signs and we get wonders. We get, like you guys were talking about dreams earlier. We definitely, but we have to remember Satan is a copycat. So that whole duality, and there's hot, there's cold, yes, but for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right?
Yeah.
It's for every positive, there's a negative. So that is actually God's formula. He's just a copycat, right? He's
perverting it all.
He's perverting
marriage and everything else.
All these new. That's why I won't touch an NIV. I won't touch an ESV. I don't touch any of those new Bibles because they made Jesus the capstone, and King James he's the foundation. So when you guys are talking about like somebody had said something. That's like there's three. We're fighting against two. We're fighting against. We got to take ourselves out of that and look at the big picture.
Yeah.
Just kind of rise above that. I'm not putting all my energy into Trump, but I do know that there are the lost that we want to bring out of Babel. So we do kind of be like, okay, come on, we do have to pick a side. We had somebody on here last time.
Yeah, you can try, but when it starts, how you get that feeling literally in your gut where it's just wrenching. I get that sometimes when I'm doing something I shouldn't do, or when I'm giving too much energy to something I shouldn't be doing. And that's what I'm thinking of as we're talking, just don't ever let it anguish you, try to wake them up. Just let it go. Sometimes we got to, Jacob, you may have heard this, well, maybe you too, Jen, but it was something like if you want to teach somebody something when they come to you, you just give them half a cup of water and let them go away. And then if they want more, they'll come back and you keep feeding them that way, But I like that approach myself.
Yeah.
And love, there's that great passage that a lot of people forget. Love draws a multitude to repentance and change. It's love. And love, if you want to know what that is, it doesn't judge, it doesn't cast out, it doesn't condemn. Love, it never fails. Love is kind, it's gentle, it's meek, it's long-suffering, it's patient. And it's like these things, a lot of people who say that they love, they don't do.
Right.
Yeah.
So and it's hard when you have. Listen, I was on a show just recently, and I was listening to things that I, vehemently disagree with, and yet I understood where they were coming from. And they were passionate about it. And me saying, no, you're wrong, wasn't going to do anything for them. So all I could do is share my heart to the best of my ability, and just kind of leave it at that. So yeah, I agree with you, KJ. It's like, let love be your guide and your litmus test. And if you have any kind of pain inside of, like, if you feel like that nudge, like, hey, you know what, pull back, you're getting a little bit of friction, a little bit, and are you starting to get angry yourself? That's a good telltale sign that you're not in the right path. And
Yes.
they're not meant to hear it. So
Man, that's
hard.
good. That's
It's
spot on.
Yeah, but it's very hard to know the difference. It's hard because like Jen, you can tell you really care about people.
Yes.
And you want to help people. And, unfortunately, you can help people into a worse state and help yourself into a lot of pain. I've been there.
Man, that's a good point.
I'm a Cancer, and I am an empath, and AJ's talked about this, being an empath, and I take on other people's feelings, and I feel it through energy, through emails, or I take it on, and I've been this way my whole life, and I hate it. Sometimes I hate it, I've had my spats with God, like I'm fighting with them, I'm yelling at them, or I'm in the shower washing my hair, and I'm like, well, why'd you do this, and why did this happen? That's my prayer, that's my whole conversations with God thing, and then I get, and I know I'm real with him, and he's real with me, and then I end up getting the answer back, and I can't be upset with it. I look at my life, and I have to actually welcome pain, because without pain, he cannot be my comforter. He can't comfort.
Oh, that's interesting.
Can't comfort my heart, because he is my comforter through all the tribulations we go through. You were talking about your life, Jacob, and your past and everything we go through. We can be angry. I could be angry with I could be so mad. You would think I'd be, from everything that's happened to me in my life as a little girl, and my suffering. It is, and I understand God is long suffering, but I've suffered, but I know he suffered more. And when I am in pain and I'm alone and I'm crying and upset, I remember that he is my comforter, and whatever, he bottles up our tears.
Yeah, there you got it. And guys, I want to do this here. I just looked down. I realized we've been going a good over 2.5 hours, which has been solid. So I know you got 4 kids.
I gotta get to sleep. I'm tired, but
yeah. So I want to give it a quick second to both of you here and say goodbye, and see if you had any final thoughts. I'll start with you, Jacob, before we say goodbye. Anything?
I just want to thank you so much, KJ. This has been, definitely a highlight for me. You're just an amazing man, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see. What's going to happen in a couple of months when you're going to get that call.
Man, hey, I'm open to it, and I love you, man. You're great. I knew I needed to have you on. It's interesting how we got connected. We talked about, and yeah, I love your spirit. You're a brother, and man, we'll do this again sometime, okay? Wonderful. And everyone, check out Jacob Israel's channel.
Oh yeah, please do. I appreciate it. Thank you, man. And it was nice meeting you too, Jen.
Nice meeting you, Jacob.
All right, bye-bye,
take
everybody.
care, man. I'll see ya. Okay, so Jen, any final words for the people?
So yeah, I just wanted to read a Bible verse. I do have to throw some Bible stuff.
Sure.
In, if you don't mind. This was,
of course not.
We're talking. This is the verse. I actually opened my book and prayed about it. This is Jeremiah 4:19. My bowels, which actually bowels mean heart and mind. So my heart and mind, I am pained at my very heart. My heart maketh a noise in me. I cannot hold my peace, because thou hast heard, O my soul.
That's beautiful, and thank you for sharing.
No, sorry, I'm not finished.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought of the pause. You tricked me. Why, I oughta go ahead. Sorry.
I am pained in my very heart. My heart maketh a noise in me. I cannot hold my peace, because thou hast heard, O my soul, the sound of the trumpet, the alarm of war. Destruction upon destruction is cried, for the whole land is spoiled. Suddenly are my tents spoiled, and my curtains in a moment. How long shall I see the standard and hear the sound of the trumpet? For my people is foolish. They have not known me. They are sottish children, and they have none understanding. They are wise to do evil, but to do good they have no knowledge. I beheld the earth, and lo, it was without form and void, and the heavens, and they had no light. So it's Jeremiah. It's something that came up, and I actually didn't find it. I just opened it, and it had like trumpet sounds in there. So I thought I would read.
Wow.
But
No,
thank
that was, you were meant to read that, and I appreciate it. Go ahead.
Thank you for having me on. And yeah, and we'll watch for those falling stars, Lady Gaga, because I think
Yeah, right. Jen, you already know I love you, sis. I appreciate everything about you, and thanks for coming on.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, take care. Bye. Okay, I'm going to jump over to the chat here real quick, guys. Wow, what a great show. I hate to toot my own horn here, but beep, beep. No, I enjoyed it, you know, and that's why I do the shows I do. They may seem a little random sometimes, but I like it like that, just kind of organic, you know, and it was great seeing Jen again, and great meeting Jacob finally and talking to him and hearing his story. And it's another guy I could just go on and on again with, because I'm sure he's, like he said, there's a lot he can't talk about, you know, but I kept coming up with questions I feel like you guys would have, and a lot of them had to do with celebrities, so I didn't want to start going there too much. But, you know, what was The Rock like, you know, and stuff like that, but maybe next time. All right, let me take a look here at the chat. Let's see what's going on. Guys, I appreciate you, all of you. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Sorry I couldn't call everybody out, but we'll do that again. You know, every show is a little different. Next week, I'll take a little more time in the chat and answer some questions. Got a lot of great videos coming out here real quick. And good news, I've actually finished my website for the most part. I didn't exactly. I hired somebody to do it, but it was a very cheap rate. So that's awesome. That's what I was looking for. But it's built. It's looking good. It's, I'd say, 95% done. I need to put a chat room on there, because what I want to start doing after these shows, a lot of you want to keep chatting, and I love reading your chats too, and just chatting or talking to you there. We'll move it over to the chat room there at the website, and there won't be any ads on the website. I've mentioned that in the past. That way I can upload all kinds of videos there that I can't on YouTube. And I'll probably put a Patreon link there, though, if you want to support the show, videos, things like that. These are the days we're in. There's a lot of crazy censorship going on out there. And, you know, I support independent voices, and I hope you guys will too. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. You don't have to. Regardless, come check out the website next time. I'm not going to tell you the name yet. Next week, it'll be ready. I'll have MP3s of the shows, fresh videos, again, stuff I can't do on YouTube. And that's it. I'm rambling on about my website. Let me ramble on about one more time, just you guys. Thanks again. God bless you. Thanks for taking the time. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. I always do. I mean that. I got great guests. So thanks, guys. Y'all have a good week. Take care of yourself. And I will talk to you real soon.